Hey now, welcome to a Victory Monday AFC Champions Victory Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. The Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl bound for the fourth time in 5 years. Welcome to the program. I am Brendan Dworzinski, joined by Dan Lucero, joined by Spencer Dupuis, the whole three-man crew with you today to break down what was an impressive and, while low-scoring, dominant win by the Kansas City Chiefs to advance on to Super Bowl 58. We are so appreciative that you are joining us today. We'd love to get your thoughts on anything we're talking about today, which for the most part is the Kansas City Chiefs AFC Championship game win. Hit us up either on the text line 785-272-9429, or you can join us in the YouTube comment section. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel and where you can find our live stream today. Chiefs heavy, NFL heavy first hour of the show, or first few hours of the show. In fact, we'll break down the game, all of our thoughts from it coming up here in just a moment, 1,000-foot view of the game. We'll also get to why the Chiefs are now the new Patriots. And if you're a Chiefs fan and you spent the 2000s and the 2010s hating the Patriots, that's you. The tables have been turned. That is who you are now. That is who your team is now. So we'll touch on that. We'll also get to the NFC Championship game. It'll be Chiefs 49ers, a rematch of Super Bowl 54 just a few years later in Super Bowl 58. The 49ers come from behind and knock off the Detroit Lions. Why the Niners won, maybe more importantly, why the Lions lost. We will touch on all of that coming up in this hour. We'll get to the specifics on the Chiefs defense a little bit later on in the show. They were sensational in this game, so we'll get to that. Matt Verderam is going to join us from Sports Illustrated to break down championship weekend and the Chiefs advancing on to the Super Bowl yet again. We'll get you some first thoughts on Chiefs 49ers round 2 in the Super Bowl. We'll also hear from Andy Reid. He spoke a little bit earlier on today, so we'll hear from Big Red coming up later on in the show today. Also, college hoops this weekend. It sucked. It was not good. K-State got obliterated. Do you know the last time K-State had a loss this bad?
I believe their head coach at the time was Bruce Weber.
You are correct. It was almost exactly 2 years to the day. It was January 25th of 2022. The Cats scored 49 points and lost by 25 to Baylor. That's how bad this game was for the Cats on Saturday against Houston. And KU lost on the road again. Now 1-3 on the road in the Big 12. We'll touch on that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines, some more coaching news today. The K-State women up to number 2 in the AP Top 25 poll. KU slides a spot in the men's AP poll this week. So we'll get to that. We've got what is wrong with you, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. All of that, plus your texts and your YouTube comments coming up today here on 580 Sports Talk. And again, find us on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Jump into the comments section. Let us know your thoughts on Chiefs versus Ravens from yesterday, or you can hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429. 17-10, didn't think in the first 20 minutes of the game when we had 21 combined points that we would finish the game with 27 combined points, that we would only have 2 more field goals in the next 40 minutes of action to cap off our scoring for the game. But it was a defensive struggle, and I give credit to Baltimore's defense because they kept the Ravens in it when the offense was just putrid for most of the game. And credit to the Chiefs defense for being as good as it has been all season long when adjusted for opponent, because the Chiefs played what I thought and what I said throughout last week's shows was I thought the best team in the NFL in the Baltimore Ravens. And through this weekend, I think they earned that title. I'm not going to renege on that opinion. They had an incredible defense all year. Their offense moved the ball well. They were scoring a bunch, MVP.
We had 18 weeks of evidence that suggested that the Ravens were the best team in the NFL. I don't feel like you and I both picked the Ravens to win on Friday's show. We were wrong. Hand up. We'll start there. But I don't look at it and say, oh, I misevaluated the Ravens. The stats said, the results said what they said. And the Ravens had earned the right to go into that game, not only as a favorite, but as a larger Vegas favorite than any team has been against the Chiefs since week 2 of 2018. That was the last time the Chiefs were an underdog of as many as 4.5 points. It was week 2 of Mahomes' first season as a starter against the Steelers. That was the game where Mahomes threw 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But they had earned that. The Ravens had earned that with how they had played in the 17 weeks of the regular season and what they did to Houston, especially in the second half of the divisional round game. The Chiefs just made it not matter. And they did so because they played like they had been there before. I don't know if you've ever heard a coach or a manager in a sport talk about a slow heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to relax and be calm and take everything a play at a time, a series at a time, a quarter at a time. That's the kind of thing you do when winning gets to be a habit. And the Chiefs are there. And we saw in this performance, I think, for the Chiefs, a team that was accustomed to those moments, a team that was accustomed to playing in games like this with these kinds of stakes. Yes, even with an angry home crowd all rooting against them. We saw one team that was accustomed to that and one team that frankly wasn't and lost their cool and lost their heads and got their hearts racing at inopportune times.
Isn't it funny now that the narrative is completely flipped from Patrick Mahomes has never gone on the road in the playoffs? They're not going to know what hit him. They're not going to be prepared for that. To now all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes has never lost on the road in the playoffs. Isn't it funny how quickly that flips when you've got the guy who fixes every problem, who is the ultimate equalizer, that no matter what the situation is, you've got that guy. And it's not like he was unflappable in this game. He was good, but he wasn't perfect. And we hit on that. We all said he didn't have to be great in this game to win. He had to be good for sure, and he was good. And the Chiefs' offense was awesome at the start of the game. We have seen this exact script play out so many times over the course of the year for the Kansas City Chiefs. The number one example of it to me is the game in Germany, in Frankfurt, against the Dolphins, where the offense came out looking as good as it had looked all year up to that point, and frankly, as good as it would look all regular season on that opening drive and really through the first half. They score a bunch. The offense hit the skids, and then because it is limited relative to other Chiefs offenses of recent vintage.
Did not score in the second half, which was the case in Frankfurt.
And the defense just took over, and they were able to put it away. This is a baseball team this is Blake Snell. This is Cy Young Award Blake Snell. He's going to be dominant, and you're getting 5 innings out of him. You want him to go 5 1/3? Nope, can't do it. Sorry. You're getting 5 innings out of him with a shutdown bullpen behind him. This is like Blake Snell and HDH as the Royals bullpen. That's what that's what the Chiefs are this year. You got a half out of the offense that was great, and then the defense shut it down the rest of the way. And that's all you needed in this game because they made things so difficult for Lamar Jackson all game long. They didn't need to sack him to make him uncomfortable, and yet they did. They did get after him. They hit him a bunch. He could have had a bunch more, but he was shaking dudes off left and right because he's a one-of-one kind of athlete at the quarterback position, but they covered well down the field. They got pressure. I thought they tackled really well in this game. Now, it also helped. Do you know how many times Baltimore ran the ball?
With their running backs?
Just ran the ball, period. How many designed runs the Ravens had in the game? Do you know how many there were?
I'm thinking Lamar had 2, and the running backs had 6. So it was 8? Was it 8 design runs?
I believe you were correct. It is the 5th lowest run rate by a team with Baltimore's run profile in the history of the league. Why in the world are you, even when you include Lamar's scrambles, they had 16 rushes in the game. Why are you, they were the best run offense in the league against a team, and we parsed over the numbers all last week, doesn't defend the run well. What was Todd Monken doing in that game?
I saw this on Twitter, especially because, where I'm from, a lot of people I follow, they're Ravens fans.
Sure.
They were literally looking back, one guy was reflecting. He goes, a couple of years ago, I would have been mad had they not run enough because it seemed like Greg Roman only ran the ball and now they weren't running enough. And he was like, what is going on? They ran so much before and now they're not. And it's just crazy. He was looking back on it. And I was like, yeah, that's wild to think about.
Do we know that Gus Edwards didn't wander off at halftime? Can we confirm Gus Edwards' whereabouts? That he not tumbled down the Springfield mystery spot at halftime on his way to get a thing of Gatorade? He had 15 yards on his first carry of the game. He touched the ball 3 times.
Yeah, that's it.
What?
It didn't make any sense. And that is another one of many encapsulations of one team that has been there before, that has been in these games, that knew what it was doing, and a team that, while they have a Super Bowl winning coach, none of the dudes, one guy is still around from that last Baltimore Super Bowl. One guy. You know who it is?
I don't.
Is it Justin Tucker?
It's the kicker, who, by the way, pissed off Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce before the game.
Apparently, he does this all the time, and while a lot of fans are saying, I was seeing this on multiple like Instagrams and stuff. A lot of fans are like, "Wow, this is exactly who Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are. They do this kind of stuff." And then half the other people were like, "This is what he does all the time." I'm glad people are actually like players are finally putting him in his place. He has a whole other end of the field to go do that.
So yeah, if you didn't see this video from prior to kickoff, Justin Tucker was doing his stretching and warming up right in front of where Patrick Mahomes was warming up, and they were going back and forth about it. Eventually, Travis Kelce comes over and says, "Hey, we need space. Patrick Mahomes is warming up." Tucker doesn't move. So Travis Kelce threw his helmet and his kicking balls and just like threw him out of the way. And the stupidest people on earth who were all like, "Oh, the Chiefs are such bad guys." You guys have a brain the size of a half a pea. You people are so dumb. It drives me insane. This is football. This is guys trying to get a leg up on each other. This is gamesmanship. 90% of the people who watch the NFL don't even like football, but that's a discussion for another day.
There's a lot of gamesmanship going on in this game.
All game long.
Arthur Mollett threw a punch at, was it Jalen Watson, I think it was, before the game. There was, obviously emotions are going to run high. Like, that stadium was amped. They brought Ray Lewis out and everything. Terrell Suggs out there.
But your point about the slow heartbeat is perfect encapsulation. Yeah, they brought out Terrell Suggs too. Who do you remember who he ended his career with?
I saw
got
this
a
on
second
Twitter.
ring with.
Yeah, and got a Super Bowl with. Yeah,
With
the
the
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Wild pick.
I used him on the Immaculate Grid yesterday.
Nice. So the fact that this all is going on and it is an intense environment and it's loud and that place is charged up and all of that and the players are clearly amped up, the Chiefs, they knew how to handle it. They knew exactly how to handle it, and they knew how to take advantage of Baltimore not knowing how to handle it. And an entire roster, 52 of 53 guys who had never been there before, did not know how to handle it. And the best example of that, Travis Kelce baiting Kyle Van Noy. Kyle Van Noy, who, by the way,
who ought to know better,
who has played in games of this magnitude, going after Kelce and getting baited like a fish grabbing a hook for a personal foul early in the game. That right there told you this Baltimore team doesn't know what it's in for.
and that cost them points.
Yes,
because the Chiefs were ready to take it to the crib at halftime, content to be up 7 points. They were buried. They have great field position. The Ravens defense had started to crank it up a little bit. The Chiefs were absolutely in a position where they say, you know what, we're going to run out the clock here. We'll be content to take a touchdown lead into the locker room with our defense, with our quarterback. We're good with that. And then Kyle Van Noy gave him 15 extra yards. And then Travis Jones came out with the JBL lariat from the WWE days, the clothesline from hell on Patrick Mahomes, and that cost him 15 more yards on that drive. And then all of a sudden, instead of just being down a touchdown, you're down 2 scores. And psychologically, I think the Ravens panicked. They got away from what made them them. And the Chiefs, they haven't done that. They have figured out in the last 3 weeks, in the crucible of the playoffs, they have figured out what makes them them, and they have stayed the course. And their quarterback has made sure that on offense, they stayed the course. They knew they didn't need to take any home run swings in the second half. They had a 10-point lead and a defense that had Lamar Jackson in hell. They didn't need, as it turned out, to go down and score. They were content to try and, I mean, they're not trying to score, right? But they were content to run the clock and do their stuff and play the field position game and give their defense a chance. And it turns out that the defense came up huge. L'Jarius Sneed I said on the Instant Reaction show last night on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, L'Jarius Sneed may have made the biggest defensive play in the history of the Kansas City Chiefs, punching that ball out from Zay Flowers. And then Deion Bush intercepts a pass that Lamar throws into triple coverage. The Chiefs hadn't been a turnover defense all year. We talked about this. They forced 3 in this game. And Mahomes, you know, people want to talk about, oh, well, Mahomes didn't do anything in the second half. The Chiefs didn't score in the second half. Number one, Mahomes was brilliant in the first half. And number two, when they had to have a play, Mahomes made the play on 3rd and 9 to end the ball game and sent all those Baltimore fans home to cry in their Natty Boh and Old Bay and crab cakes.
I think, too, had Van Noy not done what he had done, I think the next time they got together, like players got together, I think they may have dueling penalties just to kind of calm it down. But then the fact that you had somebody else doing something, it wasn't just two players. Van Noy came into the picture and just decided to do that. So then they're like, we got to call the penalty on him.
So here's the other thing too. You make the comment about the Chiefs with that big lead. How many times this year, this entire season, have the Chiefs allowed 10 plus points in the second half? The Chiefs defense. How many times this year have they allowed 10 plus points in the second half? Playoffs and regular season included.
Like 4 times.
4, yeah, correct. 4 times.
Yeah.
There's a 5th if you throw in week 1, but the Lions scored a defensive touchdown. That was the Kadarius Toney -6 EPA game. Like that one doesn't count for that. The defense allowed double digits in the second half 4 times all season. One of those games was the Bear game, and the Bears scored 10 points when it was 41-0.
Yeah.
They scored 10 points in the fourth quarter of that game. Congrats. That barely even counts.
And this is what they've always been, even when they haven't been a top-tier defense like they are this year. They've always been a defense better in the second half of games. They always make halftime adjustments. They always get to a point where they're taking away what the other team wants to do, and they're slowing opposing offenses down in the second halves of games. And now that they've got a defense like this, now that they've got a legitimately great defense, those adjustments aren't just taking you out of your rhythm. They're keeping you off the scoreboard.
And by the way, the last time that happened, that the Chiefs allowed double-digit points in the second half, week 13, that was December 3rd. They played the Packers. That was the one game the entire year, the entire season, when we walked into the studio Monday and we were like, yeah, they didn't play all that well this weekend.
Yeah.
That was the one game the entire season. And it turns out that we learned in the weeks following that game, oh, shoot, Jordan Love's like really good.
Yeah.
And maybe they just weren't ready for
it.
it.
Was a good
Like
football team, as it turned out.
Yeah. So that's it. There was just no belief. Did you at any point have any level of doubt? Not even, oh my God, Baltimore's coming back, but just any level of doubt that Kansas City was going to get that done?
No, even if Flowers had scored, even if they score on that drive 17-14.
Even on the interception drive.
Yeah, it still felt, especially after the fumble into the end zone. That was the point. I mean, there's a whole quarter left in a 2-score game, but I never really felt. I want to, again, extend an appropriate amount of respect to Baltimore and who they are and what they've done, but it kind of felt like the Miami game where, okay, this isn't a blowout, but it feels like a much bigger lead than it actually is. The task in front of Baltimore right now feels taller than just a normal 2-score 10-point deficit. And it's because of how well the Chiefs are playing on both sides of the ball.
The other note about the quarterbacks I wanted to touch on, and Spencer, you got to this a little bit last night when we did our instant reaction show, which, by the way, you can go find on YouTube. It's the recommended video on our channel right now. You can go find it in the Chiefs playlist. You can find it in the live streams from last night. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can go and find that. I said it the other day. I like Lamar a lot. I think he is a great quarterback. He is the deserving MVP, and he is not even close to the only reason why Baltimore lost yesterday. But if you are one of the types that has an agenda that is anti-Lamar Jackson, this is going to be the best week of your life, because this was the big one. This first time in an AFC championship game. This was the biggest game of his career. And right or wrong, we judge quarterbacks based on, more so than based on wins and based on we grade quarterbacks as a populace on the moments. And Patrick Mahomes has risen to the occasion every time. Even the 2021 AFC championship game, the loss to the Bengals, that game, the Chiefs should have won. They were up big. They should have won that game. If you want to say he shrunk in the moment there because he threw the late pick, I would debate you on that, but okay, fine. I think that was more about the defense. 2018 against the Patriots, bad first half. The second half, he was untouchable.
Yeah.
He was absolutely immaculate in the second half.
And
again, Bob Sutton.
And then in Super Bowl 55,
he didn't have a chance.
Only time in the history of the game a quarterback scores 9 points and leaves the opposing sideline in awe of him.
No fan base has ever bragged about an incompletion more than Chiefs fans have bragged for years about the one where he was parallel to the ground and then threw it off of Darrell Williams' face mask. Like that, people still have that as their Twitter profile picture years later.
Yeah.
Championships later, people still brag about that throw. Lamar threw the ball into triple coverage down by 10 in the fourth quarter. Like it sucks. And he's going to stick with him, and it's going to make people think that suddenly he's just a running back who can throw. No, he's a really good quarterback, but you've got to meet the moment, and one quarterback did, and frankly, one quarterback didn't.
I like Lamar Jackson a lot. I think he's a pretty likable guy. I think he's an incredibly exciting player to watch. But
he's got an awesome personality, too.
He is going to be dogged by the Joel Embiid allegations, the regular season merchant allegations for a long time here. And the thing about it, though, that's kind of unfair is he's going to have some company, because there might be a whole bunch of guys who play the primes of their careers or have their best Super Bowl opportunities in the AFC in the past couple of years and in the years to come, and they just don't get anywhere near a ring because they keep bumping into Patrick Mahomes.
So here's the question. Here's the comparison question for you guys then. Who is Gary Payton? Who is John Stockton? Who is Karl Malone? Because Mahomes is Jordan.
Yes, Mahomes and Jordan. I think that makes Lamar Barkley.
Yeah, who's Barkley? Who are any of those legends from the? Who's going to get their one? Like Burrow or Allen or Jack? Who is going to be Hakeem?
Burrow is Burrow's Ewing, because at least he got to a finals.
Yeah, there you go. Like that. That's the comparison right now, because Mahomes is Jordan. Because you can't stop him, and he's got guys around him who are, Scotty was the star, Kelsey's the star, but we all know who butters the bread here, and it's 15. Yeah. Like that's what we are going through right now, and that's the way it was with Brady for a while too. But even Brady, he won 3 and 4 years. They missed the playoffs in 2002.
Yeah,
like this has been unprecedented success for the Chiefs and for this quarterback.
I think it's unprecedented that he's only 28.
Yeah.
He's
younger than I am.
If you look at the numbers, you're like, he's just 28. This is impressive. What else is going to happen?
Well, Brady had 3 by now, and Aikman won his 3rd in his 7th season.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mahomes is technically in year 7. Montana only had 2 by this point. Bradshaw only had 2. When you look at the guys who've been serial winners, the guys who've won 3 or more, it's a really small club. And Mahomes is now 1 game away from joining those guys. It's those guys. Bradshaw, it's Montana, it's Brady, it's Aikman.
And by the way, now year 6 as a starting quarterback, Mahomes has as many playoff wins as Peyton Manning, who I think over time has almost become underrated. Peyton Manning was so good, but he was not physically impressive. But he was so good. He had 14 career playoff wins. He played forever. What was it, 18 years, 17 years that he played in total? Even if you include 2011 when he didn't play. Same number of playoff wins as Terry Bradshaw, who won 4 Super Bowls and was the quarterback for a dynasty. And same as, and this is going to kill your buddies back home, John Elway.
Yeah.
Same number. Although I think even the most staunch Bronco fan would tell you that, Mahomes is the best we've ever seen.
Yeah. Like, again, it's everybody's making this comparison now. It's, Brady is Jack Nicklaus. He's got all the records. He's got the most major championships. That means something. But Mahomes is Tiger. Like, you see it. Like, all you got to do is use your eyes. And you're seeing something you've never seen before.
We're going to get to a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got a lot more to get to on the Chiefs' win yesterday against the Baltimore Ravens and looking ahead to the matchup with the San Francisco 49ers coming up in Super Bowl 58. We'll talk about both those things coming up a little bit later on this hour, including why, speaking of Tom Brady, the Chiefs are the new Patriots. And if you don't like it, well, you better get used to it. That's coming up on the other side of this timeout on this Victory Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. just getting started on 580 Sports Talk on this Victory Monday. Brendan, Dan, Spencer here with you in studio today. We're going to get to some entries in from the text line here. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And, of course, the YouTube comment section as well, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Some real quick breaking news, and unfortunately not really a surprise, but it's being reported now that Charles Omenihu suffered a torn ACL against the Ravens, so he is obviously not going to play in the Super Bowl. He was really good at the start of the game, too.
Yeah, he obviously had the strip sack, but had played really, really well this season. Obviously started the year with the 6-game suspension for violating the league's policy on what's the terminology? I want to make sure I get the terminology correct. Off-field behavior. The personal conduct policy. That's what it's called. I was looking for the name of it. So he violated the personal conduct policy, missed first 6 games, 7 sacks, 2 forced fumbles in 11 regular season games after that. He was really, really big part.
Better than I expected him to be.
Yeah, really big part of the Chiefs' pass rush, and his ability to win one-on-one has been what has allowed the Chiefs to play so much man coverage on the back end. So obviously that raises the onus on George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Mike Dana, Turk Wharton.
Mm-hmm.
We might see Felix Anudike-Uzomah or Malik Herring activated for the Super Bowl to try and fill that role as a situational pass rusher.
I would imagine so.
But that's a blow. No question about it. That is a blow for the Chiefs to lose Omenihu for the Super Bowl.
Especially because he is going to miss plenty of time next season, too.
Yeah, they did. They signed him to a 2-year deal, so he's scheduled to be back for next year. So, if they get that repaired, you'd like to hope maybe he's back midseason next year.
Maybe. I mean, guys are coming back from ACLs faster and faster, which is really incredible.
Yeah, ACLs are like a 6-month injury now. Maybe he's back for training camp.
But yeah, I mean, even a 9-month recovery, though, I mean, that puts you probably at the end of October.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's tough. You feel for him with the injury there. A couple of things in from the text line. I wanted to start with this one from the 785. This is one of my favorite texts because it reads like a WWE promo. Chiefs are road warriors. Now what's the NFL going to do? I went with my heart instead of my head on my pick. Glad I did. Going to pick them in 2 weeks for sure. Every one of these sentences ends with multiple exclamation points or question marks. I love this.
Yes.
Sounds like Hulk Hogan. What you going to do, Roger Goodell, brother?
Love the energy. And hopefully that going with your heart instead of your head was perhaps financially beneficial for you, as my last second decision to take the points with Patrick Mahomes was for me, because you'll recall I may have picked the Chiefs to lose the game, but I didn't think they were going to lose by more than 4 points. You kidding me?
By the way, speaking of financial interest, and those of you who are longtime listeners of 580 Sports Talk might be thinking, Brendan, don't do this, because in Super Bowl 55, the second of back-to-back Super Bowls, the first time for the Chiefs, I was telling you it is over. Don't even worry about it. I don't care. Chiefs are going to kill them. I think I said they were going to win by 21 points on the Friday show before the Super Bowl. That clearly did not happen. But as much as it hurts to lose Charles Omenihu, this offensive line, not that offensive line. This defense, not that defense. So I feel a little bit different this time around. The spread has already dropped a full point. It opened immediately at Niners favored by 2.5. Now, depending on where you look, it's either a point or a 1.5. I jumped on that line and the money line immediately.
Yeah,
I double dip.
I think I sprained my thumb. Getting to the money line while it was plus. I got it plus 118 right off the rip. Feeling pretty good about that in 2 weeks.
I need to start getting back into this. I took a long break, and if I would have gone with my gut now 2 weeks in a row,
there you go.
I would have made some money. I think this is what it's going to get me getting back into it here.
Hop in the car.
Is the fact that I did that.
Head up 75. Prairie Band's only like 18 minutes from the front door of the radio station. Stop in. We know where the book is. We'll be there, by the way, a week before the Super Bowl. We're going to pay a visit to our friends at Prairie Band to get everybody hyped up
for
Super Bowl 58.
Next after next, February 8th.
Yes, February 8th.
We
will be up there.
Live from the Prairie Band Sportsbook from 2 to 6. We'll do a full show from there. So you can come and hang out with us and get fired up for whatever. America East Thursday.
It's America East Thursday, baby.
Oh,
buddy. A full show. We're going to dedicate the whole 5 o'clock hour to America East Thursday. Super Bowl. Super Bowl. Some other text in that we've got here from the 785. It's crazy. People forget Brady went 10 years without a Super Bowl. It's crazy we're already talking about this, but it's so true. That's entirely true. And appreciate the 785 texter as well, who had some very kind things to say to us. He also adds in, I'm with you guys. Lamar's great. I like Flowers. I feel a little for those guys, but I said it last night. This is why Mahomes is the best. And no matter how many MVPs Lamar racks up, he will just be better. Yeah, that's the difference maker. Like, we're in the postseason. The first year of Mahomes' career as a starter, take out 2017, as a starter, where he is not even in the MVP conversation. And yet, even more so than 2021, when Andy Reid had the famous "when things are grim, be the grim reaper" line, which I have said since then kind of lost its luster because the Chiefs lost the next week.
Yes, if they had gone, even if they had just gone to the Super Bowl that year, it would have been one of the hardest bars in sports history. And unfortunately, it is kind of lost.
But now it is more true than ever because it has felt that way. Because now you've had that. Wow, you're a 3 seed, and everyone knew the Chiefs were going to beat the Dolphins. That one wasn't so much. Everyone thought, everyone was counting us out. But they're not going to win on the road. Allen's playing this great football. Beat them. Oh, you can't win on the road in Baltimore, and the Ravens are the best team in the league. I said that, and they went and did it. Just incredibly, incredibly impressive. One here from the 316. This is a clarifying question. I live in Wichita. I'm a regular listener. We appreciate you listening from down
shout
in
out to the Air Capital.
Down in the Air Capital.
My first move to Kansas was out in Wichita, so got a lot of love for the Air Capital. Appreciate our listeners down there.
Our 316 texter is asking, can you explain why I'm unable to listen to Mitch Holthus on the radio during playoff games and for the Super Bowl? So the NFL has broadcast rules. You heard, if you listened to 580 yesterday, you heard Ian Eagle on the call for the AFC Championship game. And for Super Bowl Sunday, you will hear the great Kevin Harlan on the air. Can't wait for that.
Who was on for the NFC Championship?
He was.
Not a bad consolation prize, honestly.
No. So the reason is the NFL's got rules about broadcasting for playoff games. Since we are not technically in the Kansas City market, we're in the Chiefs radio network, but it's sort of like the playoff game on Peacock, where if you were in the Chiefs home Kansas City only market, you could watch the game on local TV.
The only station that gets to broadcast the home feed is the flagship station.
Yes.
That's an agreement that the NFL has with Westwood One, who is the national carrier of NFL games, of the Super Bowl. You hear their coverage on our airwaves on like Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, the primetime stuff. The NFL has an agreement with Westwood One that outside of the flagship stations for both teams that participate, the affiliate stations, which is what we are an affiliate station of the Chiefs Radio Network, must carry the Westwood One broadcast and not the home team broadcast. So our hands are tied on this one, and I know a lot of people miss listening to Mitch, but the Chiefs do a pretty good job on their socials getting his calls out there. And speaking of bars, Mitch knew he had one last year with you could doubt the Chiefs, and he went back to it this year, and it still rings off. Still true. As long as the Chiefs are doing this, it is going to continue to be true. But we appreciate you guys listening and chiming in. Again, text line number 785-272-9429. I'm all jacked up about this. YouTube stream as well. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. Real quick to touch on this. There's a lot of comparisons here between the Chiefs and the Patriots. The NFL has always had dynasties. In the Super Bowl era specifically, we have always had dynasties. Really, the only exception is kind of the early 80s, although the 49ers did win, I think, the 82 Super Bowl. Yeah, that's true. Kind of rolled into the late 90s. Yeah. We think more of their dynastic period. Sure. But we went from, the Cowboys and the Steelers in the 70s to eventually the 49ers in the 80s, to the Cowboys again in the 90s, and the Patriots in the 2000s, and the Patriots again in the 2010s. There's always the team of the decade, right? I mean, shoot, go back even further. The Packers won between the Super Bowl and the NFL championship 5 times in the 60s. I couldn't tell you, like the 40s, before and after they came to the NFL, because they were in the AAFC originally, the Browns won 6 titles in their respective leagues in their first 8 years of being a franchise. We have had this, the 20s, it was the Packers too. We've had this forever. And that is the Chiefs now. And people are sick of it. People, not us, not the kingdom, and not most rational national people who just appreciate good football. But it becomes, oh my God, we see Mahomes and Kelsey on every commercial. We can't escape them. Travis Kelsey is dating this celebrity. People have always been weird about Patrick Mahomes' then girlfriend, now wife. We see them all the time. I'm sick of Andy Reid. The thing about the Justin Tucker situation before the game, these are bad guys. They're showing their true colors, right? It's the same thing that we went through with the Patriots. Here's a big difference, though.
Here's a big difference. One, I think people are dumber than they were 15 years ago. I genuinely believe that.
Yes.
The other thing, too, and Barbara brings this up in the YouTube comment section. She says, I'm sorry, I just get tired of all the Brady love. When he was on a team that got busted multiple times for cheating, I don't accept him as the greatest of all time at all. Yeah, there is a significant difference. Head coach likability, greatness on a similar-ish scale. Likability, Andy Reid blowing Bill Belichick out of the water. Also, has this team ever been caught taping other teams' practices?
No.
Or anything like that? And the Deflategate thing was such a joke from the very beginning. It was such a dog and pony show. But by the same token, Chiefs haven't gotten into trouble for anything like that. Like,
no.
In terms of those things, the Chiefs are a lot cleaner than those Patriots teams were. But like, this is what you have to live with when you've got the greatest in the game, plus a great coach and great roster building, which is helpful when you've got the guy at quarterback. You can put together runs like this, and it has worked out beautifully for this Chiefs team. And this game was kind of like a lot of those Patriots wins over the last 20 years.
That's what stood out the most to me. This felt very Patriots-like. It was business-like. It was a clean game. Everybody doing their job, if I can steal one of the post-Super Bowl run slogans that the Patriots used. I think that was after the Atlanta Super Bowl, I think, for them. Just doing everybody on song, everybody doing their job, communication between the coaching staff and the players on the field, off the field, everybody very in sync. And then a quarterback just being better than his counterpart, making all the plays that matter. Like, I don't remember who it was, but I saw on Twitter somebody say, watching Mahomes now in this phase of his offense, it's like watching late career Brady, except he can run.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not making mistakes. He's not putting the ball in bad spots. He's not putting the ball at risk. He's just making the throws that are there in the offense, spreading the ball out to his best playmakers. And when the play needs to be made, when the big play is out there, the kill shot needs to be delivered, he delivered it.
Real quick, want to get to this. We had to get it in at some point. I do want to talk about the NFC Championship game, too, and we're a little tight to the hour here. The Kadarius Toney situation, Andy Reid addressed it today. Very passively, like, yeah, he'll be back out there. We'll see how the situation goes. So Kadarius Toney, if you didn't see this, he went he had his girlfriend, partner, whoever, had their daughter during the weekend. So that was going to keep him out for the game anyway, plus the injury designation. But then he takes the Instagram live right before the game on Sunday morning and is saying, I'm not actually hurt, which I'll be honest with you. I get why he was saying that, like, hey, I'm being screwed over here. I would much rather the Chiefs are claiming and pretending that I'm hurt than having the Chiefs come out and say this dude is so bad we can't play him.
Yeah,
like, they're doing you a favor, buddy.
Exactly. That was exactly my first thought. It's like, recognize when someone is trying to do you a solid so that when you hit the open market after they cut your behind after this season, you can go to your new team and say, hey, I got a clean bill of health. I need a change of scenery. I'm ready to rock and roll. It's just a health thing, but now I'm healthy. I feel 100%. I'm ready to go. And nobody's going to ask any questions like, how are you so untrustworthy that you can't get on the field?
Yeah, this was insane that happened Sunday morning.
And I mean, it seemed like he just woke up on the wrong side of the bed and was very expletive. We couldn't play if we pulled the Instagram live, we definitely could not play it on the air.
He is
because the amount of stuff he said.
He is a first team can't get right all-star. No matter what he does, he cannot get right. He is incapable of getting right. The Chiefs try to do him a favor, and Toney, unsurprisingly, he dropped the ball.
Maybe he was in a bad mood, just had a daughter. Maybe he was sleep deprived. A lot of crying. I don't know. I'm trying to give him the benefit. He does not deserve the benefit of the doubt.
No, he really doesn't.
This is who he has always been. Learn from other guys. Learn from Shady McCoy, who got really a sweetheart deal to come to the Chiefs, then badmouthed the team on the way out. And like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? You're talking to Emmanuel Acho at 2 p.m. on FS1. Congratulations, pal. Kadarius Toney following the same kind of path. We will get to the NFC Championship game. We do know that it will be the Niners against the Chiefs. Was that game more about the Niners coming back or the Lions melting down? We'll talk about that next on 580 Sports Talk. 2:49 on 580 Sports Talk. This first hour has gone by in a hurry. So much to get to. Chiefs versus 49ers, Chiefs versus Ravens coming up throughout the rest of the show today. Really quickly, before we get to the top of the hour here, Spencer, the NFC Championship game, the 49ers come back and win. More about the Niners coming back to win or more about the Lions melting down?
Ooh. I mean, it's a tough one because I think we saw both sides really show different signs in the second half, but I think it's got to be about the Lions melting down. I mean, this is their first time getting there. It's kind of like the Ravens thing where it's like they haven't been there before. It's kind of just how it goes in the NFL. You get to the big games, and if you haven't been there, you don't have enough guys that have been there, then you get up to a good lead, but then it just falls apart. And that's what happened yesterday for Dan Campbell and the Lions. And I mean, they have, I don't know. It's weird because they have such an interesting team. I mean, Jared Goff, is he a top 10 quarterback? Is he just a top 20 quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, or top 5? Is he just a top 15? You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell. And for this Lions team, it's hard to tell what the future is going to be with the way that the coordinators both could be poached because they're both still available for the top two, they're the remaining 2 coaching jobs.
And that's why this Lions team was so fascinating, I think, because they have a ton of free agents, like impact, and they still got a lot of their core coming back. But there was reporting this weekend that they're probably going to pay Jared Goff to be a long-term starting quarterback for them. They're going to lose both of their coordinators. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar Jackson. And someone like that. I don't know. Be that encapsulated again how so many people don't pay attention to trends with team. It's why I have stopped I'll say, hey, I would like the Chiefs to use Isaiah Pacheco more, but it's why I have stopped saying, all right, here's a key to the game. You got to run the ball X number of times because it's just not going to happen. Like, we know who Andy Reid is. We know what the Chiefs are. This is what the Lions do. They danced with the girl who brought them. And whether you like it or not, I don't think the discussion should be about, well, they shouldn't have gone for it on 4th down here and here. That's what they do. And I had someone in my mentions on Twitter last night who's like, yeah, they got here, but that's almost the reason they didn't get here too. I was like, okay, so you're more concerned about what almost happened than what did happen. That's not how I operate. They did get here. The way they operated all season, won them a division. Again, they got a little hairier at the end of the season, but they won a division. They got a playoff. Less so to me than just doing what you have done and been for 3 years now.
No, you have to execute. No matter what decision you make, you have to execute.
Yes.
It's like if you make the decision to kick the field goal and you miss the field goal, then the problem is your execution, not your decision making. But look, man, go up 3 scores midway through the third quarter. I'm sorry. I know that, you pull out your spreadsheet and it's 0.2% difference in win probability if you go for it and get it over kicking the field goal. And I know Michael Badgley's not great, but 48 yards in the NFL is a chip shot anymore. The weather wasn't great, but it was doable in that particular scenario. Look, I am not meathead anti-analytics guy. I was the guy with baseball prospectus manuals in my backpack going to high school classes in the early 2000s. Okay. I've been on this analytics, sabermetrics, stats, probabilities, good process. Even if you don't get the good result, have a good process. I've been on this way longer than any of you guys.
Is that your way of saying you're old?
Yes, that is one way of saying it. Yes, the old relative to you guys, the old guy on the show now.
Yeah,
that used to be Jake. Now it's me. I'm the senior citizen. I'm the elder statesman, I suppose. That all being said, you got to know the situation, and you got to trust your players, and you got to know that if you go up by 3 scores in a conference championship game midway through the third quarter, that changes the math it changes the mindset. That changes things in a way that I think is more important than the 0.2% chance of that improves your win probability if you get the 4th and 2. Send your kicker out, knock it through, make the Niners panic, make them realize they got to go score 3 times. And maybe they would have because they dog walked the Lions defense in the second half. And so maybe all of this is moot. But I don't know. At some point, you do need to take your nose out of the spreadsheet and watch a game. And at some point, I think the some point was midway through the third quarter. Dan Campbell got that wrong. He got probably the end of the half wrong. He damn sure got that run play with a minute to go in the game wrong.
That was the single worst call of the game. Like, you have to know the situation. You have to know how many timeouts you have, what it's going to look like for your defense. Because as soon as they burned that timeout, it essentially became, if you don't recover the onside kick, game over. Whereas you had so many other options, so many different things you could have done if you had kept it. That was the biggest problem.
They have 25 players that are not on their roster that are on expiring contracts.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for that.
It's like half your team,
year. Especially now that there is actually another team in that division who's worth a damn going into next season. We will get to more on the 49ers. We will get to more on this matchup later on in the show. We owe you a break for the news. We'll come on back. We'll talk about this Chiefs defense here on 580 Sports Talk. go. Second hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way on a Victory Monday. The Chiefs are headed back to the Super Bowl. Brendan Dworzynski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, all here with you for the next 3 hours, breaking down the AFC Championship game, looking ahead to Super Bowl 58 and everything in between. Thank you so much for joining us today. Coming up here in the 3 o'clock hour of the show, we will get to, in particular, the Chiefs defense, which was just magnificent all day long yesterday against the Ravens. We'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we will also hear from Matt Verderam from Sports Illustrated, our national NFL insider on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. We'll talk to him all about both championship games and the matchup for Super Bowl 58. We would love to get your texts into the show. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And you can also hit us up as well on the YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. Just go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and then you can check out the live stream and hang out with us throughout the show today. A couple of texts in from the 785 about that Lions situation in the NFC Championship game. One from the 785 says, I think I learned more about the 49ers there. I didn't think they had that in them. I think CMC in his heart is actually underappreciated / undervalued. I didn't think they had that in them. Very much a tale of two halves. Another texture from the 785 says, if you get stopped on fourth down, momentum goes to the other team and gives them a boost. The Chiefs should have kicked a field goal when they chose not to review the third down, when I thought Kelsey made a first down, and the Lions were just dumb on their fourth downs with the 2-possession leads. I appreciate you guys sending in your thoughts on both games from yesterday. We'll continue to break them both down throughout the rest of the show today. While I'm thinking about it, I just told Dan before we got back from the news break, I had a story to tell him about our pal Fulton Caster. Shout out to Fulton.
What up, Fulton?
This came up because Fulton and I, in our beloved mid-major conferences, my America East, his Ivy League, Vermont and Yale are going to play in a non-conference tournament next year. And I thought about this. So on my way home, I tweeted about this on Saturday night. My drive home from Kearney on Saturday. It's a long drive, right? 5 hours.
Not a short drive, yeah.
I listened to exactly 2 musical artists my entire drive. I just put their Spotify profiles on playlists on shuffle and listened to them. I listened to Flogging Molly, who's a Irish punk rock band. Love them. One of my all-time favorites. They're coming to Kansas City again in March. I'm very excited. So I listened to them from Kearney to Nebraska City, where I got dinner.
Spencer, what you got on Flogging Molly? You have a favorite Flogging Molly song?
Who?
Yeah,
that's what I have on.
I'm missing out.
I am familiar with the name, but not their body of work.
They are awesome. I've seen them twice already, hoping for a third time this spring. And then I listened to Zach Bryan the entire way home from Nebraska City to Lawrence.
Okay.
So I'm listening to, I get through the Flogging Molly built-in playlist. I'm stopping for food, and I think, all right, I'll switch artists here when I get out of the drive-through. So it just starts playing, it recommends artists for you. Or, oh, you might like this. And it plays Dropkick Murphys and a song by the Pogues and whatever. Then I hear a song by a band called The High Kings. I'm like, what in the world is this?
Oh, did you get into shanties?
I got into the sea shanties. I had listened to so much Irish and European punk music that I started hearing sea shanties on my Spotify. And it reminded me of the time man. we did crosstalk with Fulton. Just a random day. I don't even know why it came up, but I was sharing the story of the time when he gave me a lift to a Washburn game. In fact, I was filling in for Jake for Washburn football, and he was on the sideline, and we drove over together to the game. And I left my car here. We get in his car, and he's listening to sea shanties in his car.
Yes.
And I didn't say anything about it at the time, but it really stuck with me. Well, why are you listening to these? And then we brought it up during Crosstalk one time last year, and poor Fulton just got cooked by the text line the entire rest of the show, just getting massacred for his sea shanty listening.
He gave me a ride back. I would get some car repair done. He gave me a ride from the car repair joint to here, and yeah, it was sea shanties. It was shanties. It was full on shanty hours.
I got a real question. You were talking about you were listening to the play is it the artist recommended playlist, or were you on the new AI?
No, so I don't use the AI thing. I am at a point, and I sound like I'm 90 years old. If you tell me oh, this comes with AI, I immediately am no, I don't want it. I saw an ad for a phone this week, and it was oh, it comes with the new Google AI. I don't want that. I don't want anything of the sort. I want my intelligence, which already is at a fairly low level. I don't need artificial intelligence. But no, like I'll just go to like the flogging. I'll just search flogging Molly, go to their artist profile and just hit shuffle and just listen to however many pre-programmed ones they have. Zach Bryan's like 200 songs long.
Yeah.
He has so much music. He's very good. I'm a big,
and he's coming out with more soon.
I know. He's going on tour this summer.
Yeah.
It's going to be like $400 to go see him.
My sister is going to see him in March in DC.
Hell yeah.
And they wanted to go see him in New England because that's where my brother-in-law is from. And they were like, it's either DC or New England. You can't do both.
Yeah, it's
too expensive.
My wife and I saw him like a month after we got married. We saw him in Kansas City at the amphitheater, Sandstone, whatever they call it now. And then the next time he came through, he was playing T-Mobile, and it was sold out like 3 minutes after they announced the show. And I thought, okay, clearly he is at a different level of popularity now.
Again, familiar with the name. The next song of his I hear will be my first.
You may have heard one, or like just in the office, you may have heard one playing from 94. They've played a couple of his.
Not if I can help it.
Okay,
clearly.
Dan's a big headphone in the office guy.
He is. I think he walked in were you walking in the hallways with him today?
Well,
before the show?
To keep the cord from dragging, yeah.
No, they just plug it into the iPod, walking into the studio. Can't even go 100 feet from his desk without
bumping podcast.
That's pretty
By
funny.
the way, shout out to the texter in 785 that says, I contend Fulton should have gotten cooked harder that day.
Poor Fulton. He's not even here to defend himself.
No, love you, Fulton.
Although even so, he tried to defend himself that day, and it really didn't work.
Didn't go. I'm going to try and find that show. It was so good.
So funny. The Kansas City Chiefs defense, it was no laughing matter how much they bullied the Ravens yesterday afternoon. And I give Baltimore's defense credit too, because they played a really good second half. They kept that Ravens team in that game. But the Chiefs were just divine throughout the game, and it was at every single level. The defensive front was able to get tons of pressure. Amena, who had the strip sack, Karlaftis was right there to recover the fumble. They were getting pressure on Lamar all game, even if they weren't able to bring him down. I thought the linebacker core, Nick Bolton dropped an interception at one point. That was pretty much their only blemish of the day.
He has a cast on?
Yeah, he's not even playing because of the wrist injury.
Yeah, the dislocated wrist and the surgery.
So I don't think a cast will help you catch a ball.
Right.
No.
But even without Willie Gay, who we thought was going to be really important in this game, spying Lamar, they played really well. I thought Tranquil played a great game.
Yeah, Tranquil was awesome.
He also had the tweet of the day as well, celebrating in the locker room afterwards. Did you see what he said?
Something about we just cooked your parlays.
Yeah. Big Red, T Swift, and the boys just tore up your parlay again. Great tweet. That's one of my favorite tweets of the whole season from a
really
Chiefs
well
player.
done.
And then the secondary, they covered dudes all day, save for one play when Zay Flowers got loose for that touchdown, which was bonkers, by the way. But even then, he had been locked up for 7 seconds.
Yeah, that was more about Lamar and Zay Flowers just making a play. Like, everybody was covered on that play. That's why Lamar took 8 seconds in the pocket after, I forget who it was, had a shot at him and just missed. Might have been Tranquil, now that I'm thinking about it. But somebody had a shot. No, it was Chenal, I think. It was Chenal who had a shot at him and missed, and then kind of hesitated because he didn't want to get too far upfield and leave him a running lane. And the initial route for Flowers was just a little kind of a dig over the middle, and Bolton was in his hip pocket. And then when Flowers took off down the field, Zay Flowers and Nick Bolton in a foot race is only going to end one way. So, you kind of tip your cap on that one.
Is what it is.
Other than that, yeah, you had the coverage bust on Flowers' big play down the sideline. But other than that, yeah, that was it. Like, that was it.
And for how much we talked on Friday, Spencer, about how much it was going to hurt if Willie Gay couldn't go, and we sort of figured that was probably going to be the case given how the Chiefs are talking about it. The fact that they did need him in this game, I think, says a lot about the other dudes who are out there.
It really does. And I think I talked about it last night on the post-game instant reaction, just how much Tranquil meant to them last night or yesterday's game, I think was huge that he went and he led the team in tackles with 8. So it's good to see this Chiefs defense. And Andy Reid, we'll talk about later when we play back his press conference audio, just the whole team in general, where they were after that Raiders game to where they are now, especially that defense.
Yeah, it's been absolutely remarkable. And I think finally we see this a lot in like national coverage of the NFL, that by the time we get to championship games, by the time we get to the Super Bowl, full-fledged storylines from all season come into focus more for the masses. And people have heard all year. The first part of the year, there was a lot of, oh, God, you're getting smoked by the Chiefs defense. Then you had to sort of coach people. No, this isn't the Bob Sutton defense. This isn't even the early Spags defenses. This unit is great. And now more people are giving flowers to Steve Spagnuolo, to these individuals, to this group effort for the Chiefs and saying, wow, this unit is really, really good. And for the record, Brett Veach deserves a lot of credit, too, for the drafting and then finding guys like going after a Menahu and getting him. Now, he's obviously not going to play in the Super Bowl, but he had a really good year for the 11 games he played. Drew Tranquill, best value signing in the NFL all year. Seriously.
It was one of those that really stood out to me when they made the signing because Tranquill's a starting caliber player in this league, and he did not have an obvious starting role coming into Kansas City.
Coming off of his best year of his career last season.
Yeah, not exactly maximizing his free agent value. Apparently, nobody valued what Tranquill could bring, and the Chiefs were able to snatch him up with couch cushion money.
Yeah, it was truly remarkable. And Bill Barnwell from ESPN, actually, and Dan, you saw this earlier today, put together a write-up of what the Chiefs were able to do that made it so difficult on the Ravens. And the Ravens all year, their whole thing, both offensively and defensively, was to make you think you're seeing things that either aren't coming or aren't happening, period. They want to confuse you as much as possible. And they got beaten with their own game, essentially. And the Ravens just had no answers for the questions the Chiefs are posing.
So what the Chiefs have done really well all season, but especially in the playoffs, and especially in yesterday's game and the Miami game, the first read is just not there for the quarterback. And that's how they blew up Miami's offense, because you take away Tua Tagovailoa's first read, you start sitting back, patting the football, and then it's over. It's over for that offense. For the Ravens this year, they have been exceptional in what they call the intermediate passing game. 11 to 20 yards in the air this season. Lamar Jackson was the best quarterback in the NFL on passes thrown between 11 and 20 yards in the air. So that intermediate passing game, nobody was better. And in the divisional round game against Houston, a lot of those came on RPO stuff. So RPOs are really good at, obviously, because you have the threat of Jackson's legs and the threat of this team's running game, and a lot of quick game stuff to get the ball out of Jackson's hands fast. That's what Baltimore wanted to do. Steve Spagnuolo and friends took it away, completely eliminated it. Lamar was 1 of 4 on intermediate passes, and the one completion that he had in that aspect of the passing game didn't come until the fourth quarter. It was that 39-yard pass and catch and run that Nelson Aguilar had. RPO and quick game, non-existent. Within 2.5 seconds or less of the snap, Bill Barnwell with this stat from ESPN, Lamar Jackson was 4 of 10 for 27 yards on quick throws, because the quick throws weren't there, because the Chiefs played physical man defense, which they've been doing all year, and they're just plastered to the receivers in question. Guys couldn't get open right away. Lamar starts holding the ball, not sure about what he's seeing. The Chiefs then have the opportunity to get home a little bit and affect the passing game in that way. Just blew up the Ravens passing game, took away what it was that Baltimore wanted to do through the air, just like they took away what Miami wanted to do through the air 2 weeks ago. That's a sign of a great defense, that whatever it is you do well, you're not going to do it against us.
No, and that's, again, what the Chiefs have. You want another Patriots comparison? What did people always say about Bill Belichick? That he's going to take away what you do best.
He's going to make you play left-handed, I think is what Tim Hasselbeck said on with SVP last night on SportsCenter.
Yeah, and that's what the Chiefs have been able to do really all season long. This is the best job I think Spags has ever done. But again, part of it comes down to the fact that the talent on this team is really good. And Chris Jones is a star. L'Jarius Sneed has become one. Trent McDuffie was an all-pro, obviously. But you don't have, the Chargers by comparison. Everybody, if you could you ask anyone, hey, name an NFL safety, it probably only takes 2 or 3 tries before you get to Derwin James. And everyone knows who Joey Bosa is, and everyone knows who Khalil Mack is. Like, that's a brand name defense. This isn't exactly the no-name defense of the 1970s, but it's a pretty good unit with not a lot of true star power on it. And it's just guys who do everything right. Nothing the Chiefs do defensively at this point is like fundamentally flawed. Like, guys are strong tacklers. The run defense has issues. Sure, I think that's as much a personnel thing as it is anything. But you've got guys who are very technically sound getting to the quarterback. You have guys who can show off power getting to the quarterback. You've got your interior pressure. Your linebackers are fairly sure tacklers. Your safeties are great over the top guys. They can play in the box. Justin Reed has been better in coverage this year. Your corners are just unbelievably good. And you've drafted essentially the L'Jarius Sneed clone in Shamari Connor, who might not need to replace L'Jarius. We all thought, okay, this is a sign that he's going to replace Sneed. Well, they might just play in tandem next year because if you're using the tag on anyone, you should probably use it on L'Jarius Sneed at this point to make sure you get something done long term.
Yeah,
because he's and Chris Jones. But let's talk about Chris Jones too, because after the Buffalo game where he had one play, the entire game it was where the hell is 95. Now the one play he made was hugely important,
significant,
may have saved the game, in fact. But he made one play in that game. I thought he was playing with a lot of intensity in this game, and maybe it was the financial incentives. You said that last week that, hey, I just want every single game to feature financial incentives for Chris Jones because that's when he balls out. And I thought, played really well yesterday.
Yeah. He had one drive where he just blew up a drive. Like it was on second down, he had the pressure from the inside, pushed the left guard like a blocking sled into Lamar, popped the pass up in the air that hit, I think it was McDuffie on the blitz, hit him in the face mask.
Yeah.
And then the third down play right after that, he rushed from the outside. He knocks down the swing pass that was intended for Zay Flowers. It might have gone for a first down. They had it blocked really well.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to say, I think that play is a first down. Easily.
So, yeah, there was not just a Chris Jones play. There was like a whole Chris Jones drive where he took things away. He was terrific. Yeah, he played like he had $1 million on the line. So, yeah, if they could write like another incentive into his contract for the Super Bowl, like, yeah, write him a $2 million check if he has a sack in the Super Bowl or something. So, yeah, just impressive performance by that group. And not just the fundamentally sound stuff. It was finally the big play. Do you remember the last time the Chiefs forced multiple turnovers in a game?
I know it because I saw your notes. That's the only if you had told me it hadn't happened all year except the Bears game, I would say, yeah, that sounds right.
So you guys, I gave you guys the answer key. That's not fair. But no, our listeners may not recall immediately. It was week 7. It was week 7 against the Chargers. That's the last time the Chiefs defense forced more than one turnover in a game. And only the 4th time all year that they've managed it, right? We're on 20 games now. Only 4 times has this defense forced multiple, never mind 3, multiple turnovers in a game. They forced 2 against the Bears week 3. They forced 3 against the Broncos week 6 in Kansas City. They forced 2 against the Chargers the week after that, also in Kansas City. They go on the road and force 3 in the AFC Championship game. Big time defense. Steve Spagnuolo's made a career out of getting up for these big games, getting his guys up for big games, and has authored some legendary defensive performances as the overseer, as the coordinator. It's not a mistake those guys were wearing In Spags We Trust shirts.
That's a sick shirt.
It is. Justin Reed's selling those, by the way. If you want a shirt, go find Justin Reed's socials. He's got them for sale.
Yeah.
And I think the proceeds benefit his charity or his foundation. So if you want to go, do some good and get a cool shirt, they're out there.
2 quick YouTube comments I want to get to before we go to the good, the bad, and the ugly. One from Joe. Linebacker room has come a long way since Anthony Hitchens.
Boy, howdy.
Here is the Chiefs linebacker group from 2020. That was a Super Bowl year.
Yes.
Not a great defense, but a Super Bowl year. Anthony Hitchens, Damian Wilson, Willie Gay, his rookie season, Emmanuel Smith, Dorian O'Daniel, Ben Neiman, Darius Harris, Omari Cobb.
Man,
that was the linebacker room 3 seasons ago.
I had high hopes for Dorian O'Daniel. I'll tell you what.
I thought he was like the Austin Eckler solver.
He wasn't even good at special teams.
No, he stunk. He was big buns. Yeah, I really thought he was going to be something.
Yeah.
One other quick question here from Scott. How much of the second half was the Ravens getting better versus how much of it was game management by Big Red?
Both.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
It's a cop-out answer, but I think it's the truth.
The Ravens did a much better job getting pressure on Mahomes in the second half. I think that was the difference.
They got upfield faster. Like they were, I said on Twitter, like the best version of the Ravens defense this year, if you watch them like devour the 49ers or when they beat up the Lions or they crushed the Seahawks, any of those games where they just annihilated a pretty good team. It felt like they had 15 guys on the field on defense.
Yeah.
Like just the way they would get upfield, they fill their gaps, they dominate the middle with their linebackers, just completely take away the middle of the field. They played like that in the second half. Mike McDonald, future Seattle Seahawks head coach, made some really good adjustments. But also, there was definitely an element of game management where they played like they had a 2-score lead and were comfortable with a 2-score lead because that's how good this defense is. You can be comfortable with a 2-score lead.
We're going to get to a break here on 580 Sports Talk. We will talk more about Chiefs versus Ravens, the Super Bowl, everything going on in the NFL in just about 10 minutes with Matt Verderam of Sports Illustrated. First, though, we've got to get to the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. That's coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Let's recap the weekend, shall we, with the good, the bad, and the ugly here on 580 Sports Talk. My good for the weekend, one of the best weekends in sports entertainment of the year. In fact, I would argue the best event of the year, Royal Rumble weekend. I didn't get to watch it until late last night because I was driving during Saturday night showing, but Women's Rumble, a lot of fun. Shout out to Bayley. And then Cody Rhodes, back-to-back Men's Royal Rumble winner. First time since Stone Cold Steve Austin more than a quarter century ago.
Wow. That is impressive. Impressive stuff to win back-to-back Royal Rumbles. That ever happened?
Stone Cold did it in 97, 98, or 96, 97. So Stone Cold had done it. Shawn Michaels had done it early in the 90s.
A Royal Rumble dynasty. Who were the surprises? Who were the surprise entries?
There weren't a ton of there wasn't like, oh man, Kevin Nash showed up. I don't think Kevin Nash can walk
Didn't
anymore.
Bring Doink the Clown back? Or
no,
anything?
Doink didn't come back. This might not mean anything to most people. In the Women's Royal Rumble, they brought out the TNA Women's Champion. Like, she's actively wrestling in a different promotion, and she showed up with her belt and wrestled in the match. It was actually kind of incredible, considering at one point TNA's whole goal was like, what if we beat WWE and we just talk about how bad they are all the time? And now they're showing up at the Royal Rumble.
How about that?
Clayton on YouTube says, Dan trying to take wrestling seriously is hilarious. It's still real to me, damn it.
This has been 580 Wrestling Talk. Good for me from the weekend. The Chiefs are going to Super Bowl, and that made my wife very happy. Big Chiefs fan, and she got a lucky Chiefs shirt she acquired around Christmas, and has worn it for all 3 playoff games, and they've won every game. So we'll make sure nothing happens to it in the laundry here in the next 2 weeks, and she'll have it on for Super Bowl Sunday.
Spencer, what was your good for the weekend?
My good is I just feel refreshed.
Good.
I did absolutely nothing on Saturday. Did not walk out of my apartment, did nothing. I think the door stayed locked all day long.
I think you probably needed that. Your life's been a little hectic last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I was starting to feel a little under the weather when I got home on Friday night. Took some cough medicine, some cold medicine, and just stayed in bed. And now I feel better.
Like that. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
Very happy.
You don't want a Spencer that can barely talk. So
yeah, pretty important in this line of work, right? My bad. So I'm going to take you to Kearney, Nebraska. Okay. Well, first of all, there was a lot of bad. The people in Kearney, incredibly nice. That was a good. The folks at UNK, their radio guy, Jason Jorgensen, their SID, awesome people there. They were very kind to me. The drive up there, I decided to drive from Hayes to Kearney on Thursday night after Washburn played. Very stupid. I could not see anything. 2.5 hours, I could not see a damn thing the entire time. So that was very dumb. Then Friday night, I was trying to print off my charts. I make my charts for broadcasts on the computer. I type them up in a Word document, and I was trying to print them at the hotel. They had a little business center, one computer and a printer next to the check-in desk. So I get down there. It's 2 a.m. because naturally, and I can't get the screen to turn on. Like I'm jiggling the mouse. The machine is on, but I can't get the screen on. So I got to turn it on and off a bunch. I'm jiggling the cord. Finally, it comes on. It is slow as can be, like the slowest computer you've ever used. Why is the hotel computer that slow, you might ask? Because somebody tried to install the video game Roblox on the computer and had, I'm not kidding you, almost 100, like 90 plus instances of trying to run the Roblox installer all at the same time. Like someone let their 5-year-old try to work the computer and install Roblox, and it slowed the whole thing down. I couldn't use it. So I manually on the hotel computer went into Task Manager and just kept hitting end task, 90 something times to get them all to close. Finally, they're all gone. I think, oh, great. I just need to open Google Drive. No, it took like 15 minutes to get Chrome to open. So I ended up not being able to print at the hotel. I had to then the next morning before the game drive across town to the UPS store. Fine. Cost like $250 to print 4 sheets of paper. Whatever. I show up. They're like, oh, we don't have your order. I'm like, well, I have it on my phone right here. I have the confirmation from you guys. So you have it. Then they're like, oh, wait, no, we found it. But don't try to get me out of here by lying to me. Then, as the guy goes in the back to try to print this for me, I hear his coworker loudly proclaim with a store full of people, I'm always prepared to cry. And I thought, uh-oh, that sounds bad. And within the next 2 minutes, as she's walking out to help the masses, she says, well, that's not in the training manual and we're not supposed to, but you can do it. I was like, I don't ever want to come to this UPS store ever again. So yes, my trip to Kearney, not great. The folks, amazing. Everything else about my trip, not great.
My bad was Kadarius Toney dropping the ball on IG Live. Just let the Chiefs do you a favor, man. Let them lie on your name. It's one of the instances where it actually is good that somebody is lying for you.
My almost bad. I'm going to do that. I have a ugly.
Okay. You have like an iffy.
Yeah, my iffy would have been like, had the Lions actually won, we would have had to wait a little bit longer to get the Commanders head coach, or they would have decided to go with Mike McDonald. And I don't know how I feel about another defensive minded coach being my head coach.
You can't have him. He's going to Seattle.
Never stuff for both of you then.
Yes.
You can have Ben Johnson.
We'll
you can have Mike
happy.
McDonald. Anyone have an ugly for the weekend?
Yeah, I do. So you go first.
Yep, I have an ugly. Joel Embiid, quack, ducking Nikola Jokic again. I don't even care that he's missing tonight's game too. You know what he's doing? He's ducking the duck allegations by not playing tonight against Portland, where he only plays road games against lesser opponents, so he can go out and score 70. Everybody goes, ooh, Joel Embiid, he's so great. Give him the MVP. He's so great. Quack. You're a duck. You're a coward. Haven't played a game in Denver since before COVID. Quack, Joel.
Spencer, what was your ugly?
My ugly involves me personally.
Okay.
Obviously new to the area.
Yes.
I have in my time in college gone to the grocery store Kroger.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Well, they own the brand that owns Dillon's.
Yep.
Right.
So I was like, I like their products. I will start going to that grocery store.
Uh-huh.
So I go to the grocery store, go through, get everything I need.
Mhm.
And then sometimes grocery store brands that are owned by the same brand, you can use your royalty card from the last place.
Sure.
So I was trying to find my Kroger Plus card because I did in fact have one. Well, I had one in college, when I wasn't smart and didn't connect it to my phone number. So I don't have the card. And I tried to type in my phone number and they didn't think it exists. It didn't exist in their system. So I was like, that makes sense because I probably never connected it.
Okay.
So I asked him, like, hey, can I get a card for you? Like a Dillon's Plus card, I guess is what it's called or whatever.
Sure.
And the guy's like, yeah. So then he goes and looks. He can't find his. Meanwhile, there's a line of people behind me, right? So then he goes over to the next register and he finds one. He gets one. And he's like, fill everything out, take it to the desk. And I was like, all right, can I do that a different time? Because I wanted to get back. It was actually like 25, 30 minutes before the game.
Sure.
So I was like, I need to get back. I'll come back a different time. And he goes, yeah. And me just being dumb and having so much going on and all these people here, I just walk out, start to walk out because the guy bagging has finished my groceries. Do you know what I did not do?
Pay?
Yeah. So I get to the door and the guy's like, sir, you haven't paid. And I was like, oh my God. And there's a line of people and I'm like, geez, Louise.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Myogi, by the way, college basketball reporter Jeff Goodman threatening to have a Big East blogger on Twitter get sent to jail because his buddy Ed Cooley didn't look good in a fan-made documentary about Providence basketball. That's a real thing that is happening. He DM'd the guy, how do you look in orange? Like a jumpsuit. Very, very embarrassing for a total doofus like Jeff Goodman. Matt Verderam, not a doofus. He joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. chat with Matt Verderam of Sports Illustrated coming up in just a moment here on 580 Sports Talk. You can find all of Matt's work in Sports Illustrated and at SI.com. You can also find him on Twitter at Matt Verderam, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, talking all things at championship weekend here in just a second with Matt Verderam. Fun weekend of football overall. Both games ended up being pretty entertaining for wildly different reasons, and we'll get to the collapse from the Lions and that 49ers comeback in a little bit. But now, as we are joined by Matt Verderam on the phone, Matt, the first thing I've got for you, the most impressive part of the Chiefs' win over the Ravens yesterday was what?
Their defense, the Chiefs' defense. The offense did them no favors in the second half. They couldn't move the ball, save for the very end of the game. And the defense just time and again held Baltimore without anything until, a late field goal. Baltimore never had the ball in the second half. They could have tied the game. And I thought the offense played fine. They were excellent in the first half. I thought the second half kind of smartly. I thought they were conservative. They didn't want to make a big mistake the way the defense was playing. I think that's probably the right move. But to me, the play of that game, without any question, is L'Jarius Sneed punching that ball out of the goal line. I mean, that you could argue if they win the Super Bowl, that's maybe the best single play that anybody's made during this run. I mean, in terms of just what it meant, the momentum it swung. Mahomes has claimed for a few, wasp, all that stuff, but that plays right up there.
Dan said this to me last night. We were doing a YouTube video reacting to the game, and he said that this might have been the biggest Chiefs defensive play ever. And the only one I could think of that might be in the same category, I was thinking of Nick Bolton's fumble return touchdown last year in the Super Bowl, because it is the Super Bowl. The Eagles were a really good opponent, and the Eagles offense was moving the ball really well in that second quarter of last year's championship. But does this one rank number one all time? Is it in the discussion at least for the biggest defensive play maybe in franchise history?
Bolton's definitely deserves to be in there. I know it's not one single play, but 1969 against the Jets in the playoffs, they had a goal line stand, first and goal inside the one. They held them 3 straight times. I mean, that's right in there. But I would argue that Sneed's play, in a way, even beats out Bolton. Bolton's was a great play. But Bolton, really, a lot of that was Hurts just fumbled the ball. He couldn't control it. And then Bolton did what he had to do. Sneed, to me, that play is pure heart. I mean, most guys are just going, all right, touchdown. And he didn't give up. He didn't give up on the play. He lunged at him. It wasn't luck. I mean, he purposely tried to punch the ball out, and he did it. I mean, he did it probably maybe a foot and a half, 2 feet before he got to the end zone line. I mean, you're talking about a play that if they score there, that's a 3-point game with a lot of time left, and the Chiefs offense wasn't doing anything. Now, maybe the Chiefs play a little differently, and maybe they would have scored, and you don't know if things change in circumstance and everything else, but that was a phenomenal play. I mean, that is honestly, this year in the NFL, that's the best defensive play I've seen anybody make in any game.
We went into the game thinking that if Willie Gay couldn't go, and it looked pretty obvious at the end of last week, like he wouldn't be able to play in the game, that was going to be very difficult for the Chiefs, because probably use him as a spy, try to keep Lamar contained, all of that. Well, he doesn't play, and Lamar has the one big run on 4th down, and that was a heck of a play. But other than that, I mean, the Ravens didn't do anything on the ground. Lamar was mostly contained, even if he broke out of a few sacks. What did you think of the way that front seven played to contain him throughout the game?
They were brilliant. I mean, this is a Ravens team that, going into that game, in their previous 11 games, had scored over 30 points 9 times. Had boat race San Francisco, boat race Houston, and a very good defensive mind coach, Nico Rines. Had just pounded one team after they hung over 50 on Miami. And the Chiefs went in there and just annihilated them. I mean, I think the biggest surprise, and frankly, I think it was a surprise for Baltimore, which is why they took 5 personal fouls in this game. I just don't think anybody thought the Chiefs were going to go out there and physically maul Baltimore. And that's what happened in that game. I mean, really, when you just break it down, you get the brass tacks. That's what happened. The Chiefs basically just lined up on both sides of the ball and owned the line of scrimmage. I think it was an experience that Baltimore is not used to having. I mean, they are a team that they are built from the inside out. They're a power run team. Defensively, they're going to get after you. They're going to defeat blocks. And while the Chiefs can do that, they're not known for that. People think of them, they think of Mahomes, they think of Kelsey. The Chiefs lined up and just ran them over for huge chunks of the game, and defensively even more so. I thought the front seven controlled the game. I mean, they sacked Lamar 4 times. They could, if Lamar was Brock Purdy, they would have sacked him 8 times, 9 times. They were all over him in that game. They were outstanding.
Our guest is Matt Verderam, covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com, and he joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Monday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, the Chiefs move on to the Super Bowl. It is the 4th one in the past 6 seasons, the 3rd one in the last 4. But we'll have plenty of time to look ahead. Looking back at what the Ravens did, they had put up some numbers that suggested they were not just having a great season, but an all-time great season. Their quarterback, Lamar Jackson, is going to win his 2nd MVP award here in a week.
Yep.
That being said, have they bumped their head against a ceiling with what their current core group is capable of? Or is it really not any of their fault and the ceiling just happens to be one guy wearing number 15 in red and gold?
I think it's both things are true. Look, I mean, at this point, if you combine Mahomes' record in the playoffs against Lamar Jackson, against Joe Burrow, against Josh Allen, and against Trevor Lawrence, you could argue other than Herbert you can't throw in there because he doesn't make the playoffs. Other than those guys, I mean, if you want to throw in Tua, although I won't throw in Tua, you're talking about the elite quarterbacks in the AFC, and Stroud, of course, will be there. 0-3 against Allen's 0-3 against them. Lamar's 0-1 against them. Burrow's 1-1 against them. Lawrence is 0-1. And that's 1-6. That is 1-6. They have proven, the Chiefs have proven to be just impenetrable for the most part, unless they just flat beat themselves, which is what happened in the one game that Burrow won. I mean, they don't lose these games. Mahomes does not lose these games. And look, I think Baltimore, you look forward, they got a lot of free agents. A lot of them. Matt Abuke is a free agent. He's one of the best D tackles in the NFL. He is going to get a fortune if he hits the open market. Kevin Zeitler, one of the better guards in the league. He's in his mid-30s. He's still excellent. He's hitting free agency. Odell's hitting free agency. They have, I mean, Geno Stone, who had 7 receptions this year. He's hitting free agency. Jadeveon Clowney's hitting free agency. Kyle Van Noy, I believe, is 1 year left in the deal, but he's getting up there in age. Patrick Queen, he's hitting free agency. It's that specific group. Now that Jackson's contract is huge, it's over. It's over. I mean, and that's what to me is, if you're Baltimore, so crushing about this. Everything lined up for you. You didn't have to play Buffalo. You got the number 1 seed. The Bengals were without Burrow. The Jets were without Rodgers. Lawrence doesn't even make the playoffs. Herbert doesn't make the playoffs. The Chiefs are imminently beatable all year long, and you still don't make it to the Super Bowl. You lose in your building to the Chiefs. I don't know if you're Baltimore, how you can look forward and go, yeah, we're going to be better next year. We're going to be in a better position. I don't think that's possible.
We'll, again, look ahead to the actual Super Bowl matchup, but shifting gears to the NFC Championship game, you talk about a team that might come away with their loss on Sunday with some scars. The Detroit Lions coughed up a 17-point lead in the NFC Championship game. Again, we'll get to the Niners and Purdy and everything in a second, but where do the Lions go from here?
You know, the Lions, I think it's a little bit different. You know, they're a young team. They're mostly under contract going forward. I think they'll be back, at least to the play. I mean, no whether or not they get back to the title game, who knows? But I think they're going to be back. It looks like it's, that's a tougher division though now than it has been. I mean, Green Bay is clearly on the rise. Minnesota is still a good team, especially if they bring back Cousins, they get healthy. Chicago is apparently a team that's on the rise with a horde of draft picks. That division is going to be tougher. And so, all of a sudden now, if you're Detroit, look, that was an opportunity. You're up 24-7 at halftime in the NFC Championship game. I think there's always this temptation to just go, oh, well, they'll just get right back to where they were. Look, I think they'll be back to the playoffs, and they could get back to where they were. But that is no guarantee. I mean, we see the Chiefs do it every year. We saw the Pats do it every year. Those teams are by far the exception to the rule. That is not normal. Most teams don't do that. And I think if you're the Lions, the thing that's most frustrating is you just beat yourself. I mean, that game, I don't want to take anything away from San Francisco, but let's just call it what it is. The Lions just absolutely fell apart in the second half of that game. I mean, dropping a pick that turns into a 50-some-odd yard reception, fumbles, drop passes on 3rd and 4th down. I mean, anything you can think of. Campbell, all these bizarre decisions he made. I mean, that game, if the Lions just play a normal 30 minutes, they win 2-3 scores. But they didn't, and that's the end of them.
Brock Purdy is such a polarizing player to talk about because everybody over the course of 60 minutes of football gets a chance to be right about what it is they see in Brock Purdy, whether they think he's a bum who gets lucky or whether they think he's got some sort of magic, gritty pixie dust that makes everyone around him better. Everybody gets a chance to be right every 60 minutes that he plays. After his performance, really the last 2 weeks, led a game-winning drive against Green Bay. He leads the comeback yesterday. Where do you stand on Purdy as far as, is he better than what Jimmy Garoppolo was giving this 49ers team the last time we saw them in the Super Bowl?
I think it's very similar. And maybe some Niners fans would agree, disagree, that's fine. I think with the Purdy discourse, first of all, it's weird. Second of all, the truth's usually in the middle. And I think in this case, that's exactly what it is. Like, Purdy's an average NFL quarterback. I mean, realistically, how many quarterbacks did you take around the league and put them into that spot and say they're either the same or better? About half the league, right? I mean, that's probably accurate. Probably fair. I look at him in the same level as I see Tua. I see them as guys who, look, when things are going well around them, the ball's coming out on time, it can look really good. But if you can screw with them and you can put them in spots they don't want to be in, it looks really bad. And for Purdy, with that game, I mean, again, to take nothing away from him, but like, let's just, again, be honest. I mean, in the Packers, it was the same thing. Those teams melted down. I mean, it wasn't like Purdy was out there throwing 30-yard ropes in between the corner and the safety. The Niners came out, got a field goal. The Lions should have got a field goal, but were the Lions and didn't want to do that, and they dropped a pass on fourth down. Purdy then throws the ball. It should have been picked off 100 times out of 100, and somehow turns into a 50-yard completion. And then the Lions fumbled the ball on their next offensive snap, and McCaffrey basically runs it in the end zone. I mean, I'm not taking it away from the guy, but like to sit there and say, well, that just shows you how great Purdy is. I mean, no, it doesn't. Purdy was there. He was fine. And I thought the best plays he made was his legs, honestly. I thought a couple of those scrambles, but he's fine. And if you can muddy the waters with him, it becomes a problem.
Matt Verderam, our guest here, SI writer, NFL writer. I saw this morning on Twitter you have a new project out this week, going to be released one story every day. Tell us about it. It's 50 most influential teams of all time. How did you get started writing about this project?
Yeah, when I got to Sports Illustrated after last season, I had pitched this to my editor. I said, look, something I want to do. It's a passion project. I'd like to try to maybe do one of these every year. And came up with the idea of, listen, instead of just doing the best teams, because that's been done 1,000 times over. Who are the most impactful? Who are the most influential, which is the word we settled on? Who are the 50 most influential teams in the NFL? So went about putting together a panel, I believe, of 31 of us, ranging from myself to Albert Breers, my colleague, Peter King, Amy Trask, Bill Polian, Louis Riddick, on and on. We all voted on the teams we felt belonged in the top 50. I put forth a list of about 120 candidates with a little blurb as to why they're impactful. We voted. And then I wrote up each one. We had a panelist give a quote for each team as to why they felt they made the list. And then I went about for every team in the Super Bowl era and a few of the Packers teams even before that. I called Hall of Famers, some great players who just are not below Hall of Famer, and then coaches, and said, hey, in your eyes, you were on this team or you coached this team. Talk to me about why this team matters so much. And it was a project that took about 6 or 7 months to complete. It is in the magazine that just hit newsstands. It's 16 pages long in the magazine, and it's only about 15% of the words that I wrote online that are in the magazine. So it's a 5-part series online starting today, 50 to 41, on order all the way to Friday. And it's about 25,000 words in total. So if anybody wants to read it, either in print or online, I'd really appreciate it. It's a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, we can't wait to read that, Matt. It's going to be such a cool project, and we're really excited for that to come out. Real quick, we only got about 30 seconds here. In a word, who ends up the new Commanders coach, and who's going to be the new Seahawks coach?
I think Ben Johnson and Mike McDonald. I think they're probably the two front runners. Ben Johnson, I think Washington's had their eyes on him now for a while. And McDonald, like, he fits Seattle. He fits what Seattle wants to do. So I think you're probably going to see those hires relatively soon.
The Commanders fan and the Seahawks fan in the room with me are very happy that you just said both of those respective names. Go check out all of Matt Verderam's work at SI.com and in Sports Illustrated. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderam. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Monday at this time to break down the NFL. Matt, we appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you next week as we preview Super Bowl 58.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
That's Matt Verderam from Sports Illustrated and SI.com. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll lead things off with our initial thoughts on Super Bowl 58 here on 580 Sports Talk. home on a Victory Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworsinski, Dan Lucero, as well as Spencer Dupuis here with you today. Thank you so much for joining us and spending some of this Victory Monday talking all things Chiefs with us. We've got plenty more reaction to the AFC Championship game and look ahead to Super Bowl 58 coming up here in just a moment. Our initial thoughts on Chiefs versus 49ers. We've also got What Is Wrong With You coming up this hour, and we will hear from Big Red Andy Reid. He spoke earlier on today, so we will let you know everything he had to say today, including his thoughts on the Kadarius Toney situation. Do you believe him when he says he has not seen the video?
No, I think he has.
Absolutely not.
He said that he has not seen it, but he has heard about it and heard what is in it from people talking about it. And then also added that he'll be at practice and they'll see where the situation goes. Kadarius Toney probably already has his locker cleaned out. Like, what's the point? I hope he rented and didn't buy when he got to KC. He is, though, this offseason going to have tons of time to work on his rap career.
It is crushing for the last two Kadarius Toney believers, who I think were actually me and Spencer. I think we were the last two people hanging on to the thought that, if they could just get him on the field, he's explosive in the open field. Nobody can do the things that he can do. I still think those things are true. I just don't think that he's worth having around to find out. And I think he proved that fully and completely by acting a fool on IG Live.
Do you remember his rap
IG
name?
Live has ruined careers.
Yes, it has. Many, many times. Have you ever, or do you remember what his rap name is?
I do not.
Young Joka.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. YUNGJOKA. Young Joka. With hits such as Warrior and Play With Me.
Hits, huh?
International Player.
Yeah,
That
what are we
kid-
doing?
He's
Hits?
going to be an international player when he's on the Toronto Argonauts next year.
Yeah. Yikes.
I'm sorry.
No,
I was
it's
pretty proud of that one.
Yeah, that was
You
good.
guys kind of no-sold that. I thought that was really well done.
I was just hurt for my beloved CFL, the thought that they might have to bring him in. I was thinking like Memphis Showboats next year. Gonna be a gadget player for Todd Haley's team. He might have gotten fired. It might not be Todd Haley's team anymore. Well, of course, we would love to get your thoughts on everything coming up in the show today.
Ryan makes a good point in the YouTube comments.
Uh-huh.
Lost in all this Kadarius Toney drama, the drops, the nonsense. He was a big part of the Super Bowl win last year. We'll thank him graciously. Yes, it is. And I hate to do the thing where this thing that happened is just like the thing that happened to my favorite team. I hate overdoing that. So I hope you'll forgive me this one indulgence here. But it is very much like the Percy Harvin trade for the Seahawks.
Sure.
Like Percy Harvin played like 9 games for the Seahawks. They traded a first-round pick for him. And then they had to give him away the year after that because they couldn't have him around. He wasn't on the field, and he wasn't particularly a nice guy to have around. Like
You're kidding.
he gave Golden Tate a black eye on photo day at Super Bowl 48. Like if you look at the team picture, Golden Tate has a black eye because Percy Harvin gave it to him.
Yeah.
So they couldn't have him around, but he returned that kick for a touchdown to open the second half of the Super Bowl. Best trade ever, baby.
He scored a touchdown.
Yeah, he did.
An incredibly important one.
Yes. So Kadarius Toney, kind of the same deal. Like, did the Chiefs win that Super Bowl without that punt return? I don't know. I'm glad we don't have to find out, right?
Yeah.
So, as long as he did that, you make a big play in the biggest game, cash money. All good.
The Chiefs in their most recent era of success have a few of those moments. Like, when you think of Sammy Watkins, what do you think? Do you think of huge free agent acquisition, or do you think he just got hurt because we said his name?
I think about the Lizard King.
Yeah.
He's the lizard being.
That's right.
Great Amen and all of that
yes,
stuff.
praise Amen. the mentellect. Yes, the weird pseudo-religious cult that he was in.
All-time weirdo.
The reptilian solar being.
Yes, but did he make a monster play in Super Bowl 54?
Yeah, he cooked Richard Sherman, and it was awesome. I said this earlier when I saw the highlight of it. It's one of the funniest plays in Super Bowl history. Like, Sammy Watkins was relevant that year for all of 14 snaps, and that was one of them, and it's one of the biggest plays in Chiefs history. Championship teams forever have had guys who are like that, and Kadarius Toney is going to be one of those.
Yeah.
And while I agree, I think he just should be very happy about what he did to contribute to last year. I'm going to stop short of saying anything nice about the guy who caught the game-winning pass yesterday. Like, congrats on Marquez Valdez-Scantling doing his job.
That's playoff MVS to you.
Yeah,
He was their leading receiver in the AFC Championship game last year, and he makes that catch to seal this one. Maybe he's playoff MVS.
On a personal and professional level, I do not have very nice things to say about Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I will just say that it's good for the Chiefs that he made that catch yesterday. Good for him. Good for them. I'm going to stop there. Otherwise, I will be in big, big trouble. Anyway, the Super Bowl 58 matchup is ready to go. Chiefs, 49ers, rematch of Super Bowl 54. I would like to start by talking about Brock Purdy. And I will disagree with what Matt Verderame said last hour slightly. I thought about this a lot during the course of the second half of yesterday's game. I don't think Brock Purdy is ever going to be a great quarterback. I don't think you're ever going to put him in, who is Brock Purdy, a top 5 quarterback? No, I don't think he is. I think right now you can point to the next 5-ish years of NFL football and come up with a bunch of dudes who you would say are more likely to be top 5 quarterbacks than Brock Purdy. Give me Mahomes and Jackson and Allen and Burrow and shoot, I'll take Herbert. I will take CJ Stroud. I will take Jordan Love. Bunch of dudes right off the rip. Caleb Williams might be in that group. Maybe Drake May, maybe Michael Penix. We're going to have 5 more years of draft classes in there, right? Maybe Trevor Lawrence finally, becomes what everyone thought he would be.
I'd take Lawrence over Purdy right this second. Yeah.
I probably would too. I do think he is slightly above have you ever heard the phrase the Dalton line?
Yes.
Okay. The Dalton line, if you have not heard of it before.
We used to call it I think it became the Cousins line there. Then it was the Carr line for a while.
Yeah. People have misconstrued this concept as like a league average quarterback. In reality, the Dalton line is the line of a starter where they're not good enough to really win you anything of value, but they're too good to just move on from them willy-nilly. Like when Andy Dalton was with the Bengals. Mm-hmm. He had a very nice career. He had one year where he was a legit MVP candidate before he got hurt. That was 2015. But he was good. They never won. And if you were like, hey, we need Andy Dalton to go win us this game, you'd say, okay, well, that was a nice season. Game over. That's fine. But you couldn't just move on. You couldn't just say, well, what if we went and tried to sign someone? Well, no one out there, no current backup is good enough to replace him. I think Purdy is slightly ahead of that line because he's got a decent arm. Mm-hmm. He actually has very good anticipation. If you crunch the film, you're eating tape, you actually can see. I mean, he knows what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. The problem
and he's also sneaky fast. He's got that deceptive athleticism.
Okay, there's the thing. Go ahead and say it. He's got lunch pail, first in, last out.
Got a high motor.
Coach's son, all those things.
Great football IQ.
Gym rat,
all those.
Mina Kimes put out a video today about this, and she was saying, the difference between him and Jimmy Garoppolo, for example, is Jimmy could not move. Jimmy was walking in cement when he would drop back in the pocket. Mm-hmm. Purdy actually can move. So the fact that he is somewhat mobile, and he looked like Lamar Jackson yesterday, and he's got anticipation. Now, the problem is when he throws the ball, he might know where he wants it to go. He doesn't actually know that it will get there because he has more high throws. He and Jordan Love throw the ball so high so often. So Purdy doesn't always know that the ball will get there.
He about ended Juwan Jennings' career.
Yes, he did.
On a hospital ball over the middle last night.
a linebacker with a different angle to the ball kills him. Snaps his neck in two yesterday. That was an amazing catch, by the way. So I think he's a little bit better than that. So
I wasn't even talking about the one he caught. I was talking about the one 2 plays later down by the goal line.
Oh, no, that's true. That is very fair. So I think this is a more difficult quarterback matchup because of the mobility and because of just a little bit more natural quarterbacking that Purdy brings you than Garoppolo did in Super Bowl 54. I think that's a fair assessment of where Brock Purdy is at this stage of his career. That being said, I think this Niners team overall is probably a little bit better than that Niners team in Super Bowl 54. I also think they have more exploitable weaknesses than they had last time. Again, we've talked about this before with the 49ers. On their offensive line, Trent Williams is a Hall of Famer. He's amazing. Are you worried about George Karlaftis rushing against Colton McKivitz?
I am not.
Are you worried? Are you worried about Chris Jones working on? Oh my God, who is the center? Oh geez, I made fun of him earlier this season. Who is the 49ers center? I'm going to get so mad when I see his name and I can't remember it. Is it still Burford? Is that who's snapping the ball for them right now? It's no, Jake Brendel. That's their center. Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, and Spencer Burford's at right guard this year. Like, none of those dudes you think, oh man, Chris Jones is going to get bottled up. Nah, man, like, I'm not worried about that much at all. Scheme wise, it can be difficult, but player wise, no. Their secondary has Travarius Ward's been awesome this year.
Yeah.
He has been fantastic.
Yeah,
the former Chief.
He's a lot better as your number one corner than if we're comparing this year to 2019. A little ahead of where like that career path, that particular arc for Richard Sherman. Like, I'd rather have Ward now than Sherman then.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Diamador Lenore is a good nickel corner.
Yeah.
Ambry Thomas has been terrible in the playoffs. Their starting safeties are Jair Brown and Tashawn Gibson. Like, that's a very league average safeties room. Now, their linebacker room is the best in the NFL.
Warner and Greenlaw,
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable. And their defensive front is still good, and they can get after the quarterback, even though Kinlaw's never really become anything.
I mean, like, they got some brand names up front, but they're not giving a lot of pressure up the middle. They're certainly not doing a lot against the run. Chase Young
does not care.
Embarrassing.
Does not care.
He's been like that the whole season. That's why I was happy that the Commanders were able to trade him and get a 3rd round pick, because I mean, that is just highway robbery at this point.
Did you see the play? It was
Gibbs' touchdown.
Yeah,
it's like every
touchdown.
week though.
Yeah.
I've watched him play almost every week just to see what he does, and he kind of looks like when Albert Haynesworth was playing for the then Redskins back in the day, just sitting there. He falls down, he gets up, and it's just like looking around like, oh, somebody going to tackle him, or do I have to look like I'm making an effort?
Yeah, that's what they got. So even then, that kind of feeds into the point here. They're not like this unbeatable monster. Everyone treats the 49ers like that all year because they run all sorts of cool plays and they put up tons of stats and points. And their defense, I think their defense is still good, and they've got the best linebacker in the league, but they're beatable. You can get them. My question, my first question of many, the Ravens were not willing to play to their strength, which also matched up as a Chiefs weakness. Will the 49ers be willing to do that with their run game?
You got to think we're going to see a lot more Christian McCaffrey in 2 weeks than we saw of Gus Edwards and Justice Hill running the ball in yesterday's game. Although, again, maybe that depends on game state. If the Chiefs come out and they score in their first couple of drives, I mean, Kyle Shanahan might have gone to his 2nd straight Super Bowl. I'm sorry, he's still the master of panic to me. He's the NFL's master of panic.
Yeah.
He gets behind 14-7 early in the second quarter. Like, this is what happened to the Ravens. They panicked. And they got away from the thing that they did really well, the thing that might have been their matchup advantage with their offense. Do the 49ers do the same thing in a big game? Do they go away from that rushing attack, and do they put the game in Brock Purdy's hands more than they probably ought to? I think that's entirely possible. Now, the Chiefs are going to have to slow down. Like, Christian McCaffrey goes for 150 and 3 scores on the ground. It's going to be a very unfun Monday show to do, probably the day after Super Bowl 58. But I'm willing to acknowledge this collection of offensive weapons is better than what the 49ers had 5 years ago, but they're going up against a way better defense. And I still think, and Matt Verderame made this point, if you can get Brock Purdy off of his first read, there are going to be sometimes he makes like 2 or 3 plays a game that are off schedule, that are wild, but still, you will take that chance. You can get Brock Purdy off schedule. He's going to throw you a pick. He might throw you more than one. And can you make those plays? It's a little like Josh Allen in that regard, right? Like, you have to convert the turnover worthy plays, because they're going to be there just by nature of who Brock Purdy is. You take advantage of those, you put yourself in a pretty good place.
The 49ers position players last time around, so Super Bowl 54, your top 3 receivers were Deebo, still a younger Deebo, but still Deebo Samuel, Emmanuel Sanders, and Kendrick Bourne. He was probably higher on the depth chart than Richie James was, current Chief. Your current 49ers top 3 wide receivers are Deebo, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings. That's a much better wide receiver group now, I think. I think Brandon Ayuk is awesome. I think he is a really, really good player. I think their offensive line has taken a step back, though. I do not think that group is nearly as good. Kittle is still around, obviously. I think they've improved at quarterback. We know their run game is still good. Defensively, current starting group, up front, Bosa and Young on the edges, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave in the middle. Last time around, Eric Armstead and Nick Bosa were your edges with Sheldon Day and DeForest Buckner in the middle. D Ford coming off the edge off the bench
Yeah, a little
as well.
bit more depth, right?
Yeah.
Like Nick Bosa gets a sack every time they play the Chiefs. The last two meetings, Bosa has a sack, but like their depth is Randy Gregory. And anytime they were highlighting Randy Gregory last night in the NFC Championship game, it wasn't for a good reason.
Yeah,
it was because he's getting wiped out of the play. Like they don't have that. Like you want to talk about like a comparison. Go look at what the Eagles had last year, pass rush wise, and what the 49ers have in comparison, and it's not close. The Eagles had a lot more pass rush last year. Now, I think the Chiefs were probably a little better at tackle last year with Brown and Wiley than they are this year.
Agreed.
With Taylor, at least in the Taylor and Donovan Smith, at least in the penalty department. But like if you watched the sacks that the Ravens got, both of them were up the middle. The tackles held their own. Tackles played a fine game. Like if they can play, if Taylor and Smith can play at the level they played throughout the postseason against this 49er edge rush group, I think they'll be fine. I think they can win that matchup.
Yeah, I think they certainly can too. What does interest you the most about, like, what is the most fascinating head-to-head matchup in this game?
I think Ryan pointed out in the YouTube comments, it's Purdy versus Spagnuolo to me. It's the mad scientist at the top of his game, been throwing 100-mile-an-hour heaters on the corners for 3 weeks with everything he's called, and he's got that defense fully believing in him. What's he going to do to a quarterback like Brock Purdy? And I know that Purdy's numbers against the blitz are the best in the league. Like he's got incredible numbers against the blitz. That's one thing that stands out in his favor is how good he has been when you bring the extra man. I think a lot of that is scheme. A lot of that is, you get into a good personnel group and you find your check down, and your check down is Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel, and they run through one tackle, and all of a sudden your check down is a 50-yard gain. I think that's a lot of what Purdy's numbers are. But what they did to Lamar, what they did to Tua 3 weeks ago, can they do it to Brock Purdy? Can they get him off of the first read? Can they get him patting the ball in the pocket, moving around in the pocket, seeing ghosts, however you want to put it? That, to me, is the matchup that's going to define Super Bowl 58.
I think it'll be interesting to see about McCaffrey because it appeared he went out at the end of the game. It looked like he rushed down to close to the goal line, and it looked like he hurt his neck potentially.
He did get thrown down hard on his head.
Yeah, so I don't know what that is. I haven't seen anything about it. But he didn't play the remainder of the game.
Yeah,
the game was won at that point.
Well, yeah, and I mean you've got a pretty decent.
If anything at all was going on, they were like, "Well, it doesn't matter. We're going to hold you out."
Well, yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't be too worried in that regard. I am interested to see how the defensive front against that 49ers run game, because I think San Francisco's approach would have to be limit how much go win the game we have to put on Brock Purdy's shoulders.
Yes. Well, that's always what it is, right? And even in this game, I mean, Brock Purdy is getting, like, they came back from 17 down. Can't diminish that. That was the thing, right? We said this 49er team, they're not built to play from behind. They are not built to come back in games. They are not built to rally back in the second half. That was the criticism against them all year. And now they've done it twice in a row. And Purdy put together an objectively excellent game-winning drive to beat Green Bay. And they also came back from 17 down. But how did they come back from 17 down? Brandon Ayuk makes the catch of the year off of a Lions face mask on a Purdy arm punt. Like, that's what that throw was. That's an interception. Except for the fact that defensive backs are defensive backs and not wide receivers for a reason. That's the big play on that drive. And then the next drive is a 25-yard drive because Jahmyr Gibbs fumbles on a bad exchange with Jared Goff. Like, let's be careful how much credit. Like, we don't want to give no credit to Brock Purdy. That's not fair. But let's be careful about how much we decide that the last 2 weeks are proof positive that indeed Brock Purdy can do it no matter the game state. No, if you get him behind, you're where you want to be.
Yeah. No argument for me. He is limited as a passer. And there are guys who have limitless potential, limitless ability, and you can see that the trick shot quarterbacks, if you will. And then there are guys who are always going to have limitations because of accuracy or anticipation or, I don't know, smarts or however you want to phrase it, however you want to look at it. And Purdy's one of those guys. And you can still be very successful. You can still win. But similarly to when The 49ers, Super Bowl 54. Here's a great analogy for you. Well, I think it's great. I guess that's up for you to determine. The 49ers thought they could win with Jimmy Garoppolo. And then when it came down to it, they needed him to make one throw. He hits Emmanuel Sanders. We probably talk about we have a very much higher likelihood of talking about a 49ers Super Bowl win if he hits one-on-one Emmanuel Sanders down the field. Jimmy Garoppolo missed that throw.
Yep.
That was maybe the one biggest difference play. I haven't seen the win probability charts, but one of the biggest plays of that Super Bowl. Do you think you can trust Brock Purdy to make that throw? I don't know that you can. I have my doubts about that. San Francisco's making that bet again. We'll see if it pays off.
So that's the criticism there is Brock Purdy coming back in games where he was down. We kind of talked about looking to see that after it was 7-0, and then he went down 14-0. And I was intrigued last night to see if he'd be able to lead a comeback, which he clearly did. So that went above my expectations for the game yesterday, because I did think the Lions were going to run away with it when they were up 14-0, and knowing it seems like Purdy sometimes has problems getting back into games.
And that's why this game is going to do a lot for the long-term prognosis, if you will, of how people view Brock Purdy, because it's going to, if you can do it, doing it once is an event. That is, okay, it happened one time. Can you do it again? Can you prove that you can do it again? Because that has been the knock on Kyle Shanahan. That has been the assumed knock on Brock Purdy. That's been the knock on this era of the 49ers for the last 7 years. Can you get this done multiple times? Chiefs have shown they can do it. Can the 49ers do it?
So maybe we're overdoing it. Maybe it's as simple as last year against a better San Francisco defense, the number one scoring and yardage defense in the league, a defense that had a middle of the field eater in Talanoa Hufanga that they do not have this year because Hufanga tore his ACL earlier. Patrick Mahomes threw for 417 yards, scored 44 points in Santa Clara.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all there is to it. Maybe all there is to it is one team has Brock Purdy at quarterback and the other team has Patrick Mahomes. Like,
pretty simple.
It could be that simple,
Yep.
but I hope it's not that simple, because we got 2 weeks airtime to fill before they play this game.
And we are going to, of course, be filling plenty of it. We're going to hear from all the Chiefs players and coaches. They're all going to talk throughout the week next week. So we'll have plenty more audio from players, coaches, everybody out in Las Vegas coming up next week. We've got a jam-packed guest list for you for the next 2 weeks. Tomorrow, Jesse Newell is going to stop by. We're going to talk to Jesse about all things Chiefs. Our pal Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports, he's going to hang out with us later in the week for the national perspective on the Super Bowl and championship weekend. So we've got a lot of fun stuff planned for you guys coming up over the next 2 weeks before Super Bowl 58. A trip to Prairie Band next week for America East Thursday. Put a shekel or two down on the Super Bowl. So we're looking forward to that over the next couple of weeks. Right now, though, we do have to get to a timeout. What is wrong with you is coming up next. And then we'll hear today from Andy Reid. He spoke earlier this afternoon. That's coming up here in just a moment on 580 Sports Talk. First What Is Wrong With You of the week coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, Spencer here with you on this Victory Monday. What Is Wrong With You is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications. That saves you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to your metal with Top City Metal Supply, located right here in the capital city on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field.
I got a question. So as a new guy on the show, is there like a best of the year at the end of this of What Is Wrong With You?
Why, yes.
Because I
I'm
think
so glad you asked.
I'm already putting my vote on Plaxico Burrison himself
So
as the number one of this year.
So we do our monthly champion at the end of every month, which is coming up, in fact. So this is a one-day week.
Yeah, this is a one-day week. Winner today is a short week champ, and we'll face the other short week champ this year or this month.
Mhm.
And then, we end up picking a monthly champion. And then at the end of the year, we have 12 monthly champions. We narrow it down to 4. Yeah, we got it down to 4, and then we get it down to 2, and then we get it down to our What Is Wrong With You champion.
All right.
The tournament of failed champions in the final week of December following Christmas.
See, we didn't get the banners up in time before you got here, so it would have been
true.
self-explanatory. We got to hang the banners.
Yeah, we're going to put them in the rafters here in the studio. But yeah, so we get our 12 monthly winners. We keep them all together, and then we've done it, I think, in 7 years. I think we've done 7 different ways we've actually done the tournament of failed champions.
100%. We always forget how we do it.
Oh, every single year. But essentially, we whittle it down to either 6 or 8. And then I think this year we cut it to 8 and then bracketed it the rest of the way, right?
Yes, that's right.
Something similar to that. And then on the final show of the calendar year, we pick our champion. We've done it before where we did the entire tournament on one day. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Every hour we did a What Is Wrong With You for 4 straight hours.
I do remember that, yeah.
We've done it every way you can possibly imagine it. So you have almost an entire year to get ready for that. It'll be I will tell you right now, as I look at the calendar for December of 2024, we will probably have shows on the 30th and 31st of the year. That's a Monday and Tuesday. And we'll find our champions that day.
There you go.
On the 31st of the year.
It's going to be so weird. We're going to get a day off in the middle of the week, and that's it.
Yeah. Yes.
That's really weird.
Unless you use your PTO. I mean,
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
That's true. But you can have a day off whenever you want. We're salary, baby. We got PTO.
That's true. I could take off New Year's Eve because you get a free day off in your birthday month.
Are you a December birthday?
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, how about that?
Which really works out for me when it comes to the holiday season.
What day of the week? Or what day of the month?
My birthday, the 12th.
The 12th. Okay. First one in here who's not a September birthday. Dan and I are both in September.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
You and my wife are what? Just a couple days apart, I think? What's yours?
22nd.
Yeah, just 3 days apart, you and my wife.
How about that?
All right, you're up first today, Dan.
All right. I'm going to jump right to the money quote here from a woman named Heather Doherty who lives in Manville, New Jersey. Quote, "We're trying to figure out who goes around with 2 loaves of pepperoni in the middle of the night and cuts it up into slices and throws it on people's property. You have nothing better to do with your time." So Doherty woke up Wednesday morning. Quote, "I am on camera, so I cannot say the words I exactly use, but what is this? From the door to the edge of the porch and then strategically placed down the stairs to the driveway and 4 slices on the hood and 4 slices on the trunk. To call these slices is not quite accurate. These are like hunks of pepperoni."
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you guys a photograph here. We're gonna show it on the YouTube. If you're watching on the YouTube stream, get ready for a look at what this woman woke up to deal with. There it is. These big hunks of pepperoni, though that appears to be her front porch. Not even cut with care either.
That's what I was going to say.
It looks like they were ripped.
Yeah, not like fancy. Some of them look like they might have been cut. Others look like they were just kind of ripped.
Yeah, very rough edges.
But yes, pepperoni all up and down this woman's porch, down the stairs, in the driveway, and on her car. She called Manville police, Doherty did, to let them know what happened. She says she's worried the grease from the meat sitting on her car could ruin the paint. Something that one local body shop says sounds strange, but is possible. They went and got quotes from a body shop guy and a pizza guy for this story. It had to have been a hell of a slow news day in Manville, New Jersey. For WPIX, that's a monster TV station. Had nothing better to talk about.
Yeah, apparently not. Goodness gracious.
They got a quote from Anthony Dianello, who owns Manville Pizza and asked him, what kind of meat are we looking at here? And he said, certainly of the family of pepperoni, salami. Exactly what? I cannot be certain. As an Italian, it hurts the heart.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, somebody, and this woman referred to them as the pepperoni bandits. But somebody just dropped pepperoni all over her porch.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm sorry if she believes this is anti-Italian discrimination. I have told you guys before about bageling, have I not? Or forking. You've heard me talk about this before, right?
Maybe.
I have not.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess you haven't. So when I was growing up, there was an Einstein Brothers Bagels in that would be in Countryside, Illinois, one of the 8 suburbs that all fed into my high school. And they would, when the store closed every day, they'd put all the leftover bagels in gigantic clear plastic bags, tie them up, and throw them in the dumpster. People would go to the unlocked dumpster, take them out, and then go to someone's house and just throw them all over the lawn. It was called bageling. People would also do this with plastic forks. They'd go buy a box of them and just stick them in your yard. At least that irrigates or whatever. It's kind of some aeration in your yard when you pull them all out, I guess. Anyway, people would just do that for fun. That's what happens when you live in the suburbs, I guess. This is just like Italian bageling. That's essentially what this is.
So they took expired pepperoni?
Maybe, yeah. They weren't going to eat it or use it for something else.
Arranged it on her car. It's a wild prank.
I want to hear the backside of this story.
Why are they doing this?
You want to get the pepperoni bandits for
yes. I want to hear the pepperoni bandits side of the story.
For my story today, we are going down to Florida, where a wanted woman who police recently discovered hiding inside of a hotel couch has been sentenced to serve 2 years in prison for drug dealing. Again, I will describe this image for you as best as I can. If you are watching on the YouTube, you are about to see the photo of the woman hiding in the couch. It is very obvious. There's not a whole lot extra to describe. We have a police officer removing the cushions from this couch, and this woman is just jammed in the crevice of it. She had clearly cut out the bottom and was hiding inside of this couch.
She's like, man, I got 62 cents in here somewhere, man. Can't let it go.
This is quite literally in 2 different episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Earlier this year, this woman, 39-year-old Stacy Usher, pled no contest to a pair of felony counts of drug dealing and was sentenced to 24 months of probation. She was arrested after she sold fentanyl to a police informant. In late October, Usher was accused of violating terms of her probation, and a judge issued a warrant for her arrest. Usher would later beg to not be violated since she claimed her life would be in danger if she was sent to prison. She had once been the primary witness against someone who received a 20-year sentence. Cops caught up with Usher at the Bella Oasis Hotel, which advertises itself as being the best hotel in Homosassa Springs, Florida, as seen in the picture included right now on the YouTube stream. She had burrowed into the couch in a bid to hide from the deputies. To quote Charlie Kelly from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, "I'm going in the crevice."
I'm sorry. The headline of the story is "The Fall of the Couch of Usher." It's so good. I really thought I brought a strong one today with the pepperoni bandit, but
this woman sold fentanyl to a cop and then hid in the couch.
She was hiding.
That's the gist here.
The name is too good. I can't deny the fall of the couch of Usher here. It's too good.
Your vote, Spencer?
The fall of the couch of Usher.
This is an all-time great picture. This is so good. That is our winner today in What Is Wrong With You?
I'm just looking for the Roku remote. Get off my case.
Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. We'll hear from Andy Reid next on 580 Sports Talk. spoke to the media earlier today as we get ready for Super Bowl 58 and recap the AFC Championship game. Let's hear what Big Red had to say this afternoon.
Don't have anything to give you on the injury front yet. We're getting things going here right now. So great game last night or yesterday afternoon. I thought the players came out and executed well, both sides of the ball in special teams. I thought the coordinators had good game plans for the guys. There were some great individual performances that took place, and whether you always start with the O&D line, whether it was the O line coming out and setting a tempo there with aggressive play. Those Trey and that whole group, Creed, both tackles I thought did a nice job, and then the running back Pacheco played hard and aggressive, and Pat did a nice job likewise. So all around, just a good solid job there. Defensive line really started the fight up front there, and had pressure on the quarterback, kept him in the pocket, which was big. And then that helped out with the back end, whether it were the linebackers, who I thought tackled well, and then the secondary, which stayed aggressive and challenged receivers. Again, I thought George and Chris did a nice job up front there. And then the guys that had to fill in, I thought they did well when asked to step in and do their job. So, and then special teams wise, we did a good job there. So, with that, time's yours.
Hey, Andy. Wanted to ask you about the Christmas Day game against the Raiders. Not much was working that day, and really maybe for some weeks leading up to that. And it was hard to see you being where you are now. Were there things you were seeing at that time even that were led you to believe that this was realistic, that you could reach this stage here? And Brad, I'll have a second question as well.
I think, Adam, that was a good wake-up call for us. They came out with great emotion. Antonio had them ready to go, but that emotion was the thing that jumped out at you that they played with. And I think it gave our guys a nice little, for a better term, a wake-up call. That listen, we need to step things up here. Things aren't just going to fall in our lap, and so we're taking everybody's best shot. And here's a team that went through some adversity, and they stepped up and were able to present themselves like they did. So. That we were able to learn from it and move on. I felt all along, though, we had the ability to do that. We just, like I said, we needed just a little kick in the tail there. So
yeah, okay. And I'm sure you've seen what Kadarius Toney posted about his situation on social media. What's his status with the team? Will he be practicing with you this week when you guys get going?
Yeah, I actually haven't seen it. I mean, I've heard people talk about it, but he'll be back out there, and we'll see how he does.
Coach, just as a follow up to Adam's question, so his status with the team is unchanged. It remains just an injury situation. I found it difficult to follow what he was saying, but it did seem to be that he was saying he was not hurt. Can you expand upon what his situation is a little more, Coach?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously he's been on the injury report, so I mean, I got that part as that's not made up by any means, but he's been working through some things, and he'll be back out there.
Hey, Andy, I was just curious. A lot is made about Patrick Mahomes and legacy and things like that. I just didn't know How much do you think about Pat and his legacy in the league, as kind of these moments come along?
Yeah, I mean, Todd, he's we see it every day. You're right. We don't take that for granted. We respect the job that he does, and we appreciate it. And we know we're seeing something special. And he's still young in this business. So that's a great thing for the Chiefs. It's a great thing for the city. And it's somebody that you can build around. And Brett Veach does a great job with that, of making sure that other positions are relative to that. So it's a positive thing that we're very aware of, I guess, is the best way I could say it.
Hey, Coach, I know you've done this a few times now with this Super Bowl bye week, but I was wondering if you could preview the week and just kind of talk to how you might balance making sure that these guys do take advantage of the rest while game planning. Yeah. By the way, I want to just put a shout out for Allegretti too, for stepping in and doing the job he did in Bush. Those were two guys I thought did a nice job stepping in. So Pete, the way I'll look here, the guys come in today and we have a team meeting a little bit later today, and then they have a couple days off, and then they'll come back and on Wednesday or Thursday, and we'll kind of start our normal week. We'll try to get everything done here the best we can, and then once we get down there, it's a good review for us, and still keep ourselves in shape, in football shape. So we're ready to go. Yeah.
Hey, Coach. It's a popular narrative about Patrick that this is the best defense that he's ever played with. But in your years of coaching, where does this defense, stack up to you as far as the ones that you've had? And how important was it for you bringing Steve in 2019?
Yeah, well, I guess I can start with that. I mean, that was important. We have a history together, so I knew what to expect and where he would go with things. He had a young bunch and an older group that was tremendous for us, but they had kind of aged out, and we had this influx of new young guys, and what he did with them I thought was great, of teaching. All of his guys did that. They did a great job of teaching, and the kids were receptive to it, and then you're seeing the rewards of that now. Is it one of the better defenses? Yeah, I'd say it's one of the better defenses that I've been around. We had some real good ones in Philadelphia, and some of the early defenses here. I don't want to slight those guys. They did a nice job for us. So, but surely this is a team. This is a defense that has helped guide this team along as the offense was growing. So, and now that both are playing well, that's a tribute to everybody involved. What Steve has done, and then what Nag's done on the offensive side of helping it grow.
Hey, Coach, one of the things the defense has done all year is performed very well, but they hadn't really been getting the turnovers. And it closed a couple times on different deals. Obviously, that's been really big for you here, especially against Baltimore, getting those turnovers. How do you go about creating that again? Turnovers are a fickle thing, I guess, but can you coach that stuff?
Well, it's you got to have a dance partner. So they've got to make sure that that we're doing the right things defensively and putting ourselves in the right positions to have an opportunity to make a turnover, and then the other side's got to give you that opportunity. So I would say, though, Todd, that it was great to see. We had a chance for another one too. Bolt's got that cast on. That's something good. That's the fact that he's even playing is a great thing, and making the tackles he's making. I don't know how he does it, but he had a chance for another one. So. But the guys are doing a great job. They're doing a great job with their eyes right now, and that'll be real important in a couple of weeks here when we play 49ers.
Yeah, and when you kind of think back to training camp and going through the season here, and especially these past 3 weeks, is there anything about this team collectively that's either kind of surprised you or impressed you and is going to stick with you about how they battled to get to this moment?
Yeah, I'd tell you yes, Nick. I mean, it's a group that there's a great spirit about them, and there's a certain toughness that they have to where they don't get down on each other. They challenge each other. They support each other, and it's been that way through the highs and lows. I mean, nothing's changed. Adam mentioned that Raider game. Well, they just said, "Hey, we got to up our game." It wasn't us as coaches say we know what we are and can be. We've got to do it, and I mean that jumps out at me. Just that attitude. I mentioned it after the Buffalo game. I mentioned it yesterday afternoon that there's a grit to that, and maybe you're not the most talented, maybe you're not the fastest or the quickest or whatever, but let's go maximize what we are and let the chips fall where they may.
So that's Andy Reid, head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, speaking a little bit earlier today as we get ready for Super Bowl 58 and recap the AFC Championship game. We'll hear more from Andy Reid coming up plenty over the next couple days and couple of weeks as we get ready for the Super Bowl. It is a zoo. It is always a zoo at the Super Bowl, Las Vegas. It'll be especially so. That opening median night, whatever they call it now, first night or whatever, that's going to be insane.
Yes.
It's always insane.
You see they have the team staying at Lake Las Vegas?
I did see that. What, half an hour from the Strip?
25 minutes, yeah. 25 minutes from the Strip.
Not done at all on purpose.
Let them gamble. Come on. Come on, NFL.
I don't think it's the gamble. Well, it is the gambling.
It's a little
you're
gambling,
about.
yeah.
It's probably everything all put together.
Yeah, a few different reasons why. We've got 1 hour left of 580 Sports Talk coming up right after the news. hour of 580 Sports Talk on a Victory Monday. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis joining you here from the 580 studios on Huntoon Hill. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We would love for your input during the final hour of the show. Hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429. Or you can jump into the comment section on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel where you can come and watch the show today and every single day. Plus, on our channel, you can go find our instant reaction shows. We had our Chiefs one last night. That is up on the channel right now. Washburn recaps from the weekend. We will have one from KU tomorrow night. Spencer going to make his debut at Allen Fieldhouse tomorrow.
Yeah, we got to work on making sure I can do an instant reaction.
We'll get it all set up.
Yeah.
We'll get all that taken care of tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, excited, I assume?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about, you said instant reaction, and I have zero tools inside of the platform we use to go live.
Don't worry. We'll get you all set up. It'll be all good. Real quick, thoughts on Dairy Queen. And this is relevant, I promise.
Dairy Queen it's always there.
Yeah.
It's always there. Always.
That's fair.
It's good, but I do prefer supporting local when it
Okay.
comes to ice cream shops.
Okay. Well, former KU athletic director Jeff Long would tell you it is local, but that's because he's an idiot. Dilly bars, though? Yay, nay?
What?
Dilly bars, like they're ice cream bars?
I've never heard that phrase, but
Oh,
yes.
but okay. Well, here's a little tip for you.
How about the Buster Bar?
Yes, the Buster Bar as well.
That's my choice. I'll tell you the riveting story one day of the time me and Wayne Simeon each went for the last Buster Bar at a KU basketball game. It's such a riveting story that I'm not telling it on the radio because it's not a riveting story. Let me have it. That's the story.
That's right. It's a very Wayne Simeon thing to do. Very nice guy.
Yes.
Very nice guy.
Extremely nice.
Every halftime of KU games, men's basketball and football, at halftime they have ice cream bars from Dairy Queen. They just lay them out on a table in the media room. You just walk up and grab one.
Hopefully you get him to give you good directions because I always get lost. I swear.
Wait, in the building or getting
in the building?
Okay.
I can get to Allen Fieldhouse with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
I will always, given the option, take the wrong turn when I have no sense of direction. There are two places in the world where I have no sense of direction: the T-Mobile Center and Allen Fieldhouse. I get lost in those places routinely.
I hate, and I mean, like, it gives me legitimate anxiety to be in a place where I don't know where I'm going and I have to like read signs. I was at
that's going to be me tomorrow.
At Fort
I'm right
Hays
there
State,
with you.
just on Thursday, Fort Hays State. I had to ask 2 or 3 different people, all of whom gave me varying levels of detailed information, like where their hospitality room was. I was hungry. I wanted a water bottle before I go on the broadcast.
Caddy corner for your broadcast position, right?
Yes.
Around, yeah.
And it's just kind of in a closet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. I was looking for a room or a sign or what.
It's a closet with a vending machine. Yeah.
Finally, someone pointed me where to go, and there was just an open box of Domino's on a table with some folding chairs. And I thought, okay, well, I don't know if this is the right pizza, but it's the pizza I'm about to eat.
See, the PSAC did not do that.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't
Shepherd did not do that for us.
Wow.
Specifically Shepherd. The only time we would ever get food in the football press box was when which didn't happen all the time, was visiting radio would sit in the box with us, because at Shepherd there's 2 different boxes: their original press box and then the new one they built. The new one they built is just basically for the PA, the athletic department staff, sports writers, and then their radio will go in there.
Okay.
And then the other one is for just basically TV and then visiting whoever visiting comes. Yeah, the only time we ever got any food or drinks was when visiting would send a radio.
Interesting.
Which wasn't every game in the PSAC.
Kearney didn't have like a media room or a meal or anything, but they had a cooler with water and Gatorade right by the broadcast tables. That's more than fine.
Yeah, I mean, just the water. That's, it's more of like, if you have water, I'm completely fine. That was the thing that sucked about calling games. We'd have to go to the concession stand and buy drinks.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'd bring my own, but inevitably run out because you're talking for hours on end.
So they did some updates to Allen Fieldhouse this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I hate going places and I don't know where I'm going. It makes me feel awful. But at a place like the T-Mobile Center, I know if I'm there for media day, for example, I know turn left, downstairs, turn right, I'm there. Like I just have the directions memorized. I never get lost because I only ever go to the same place. Allen Fieldhouse, I always have to think, like, where's the museum relative to where the players come out? Because that's where the media room is. I just know going through the media entrance, go straight. Eventually, you run into a security guard next to the locker room. There
See,
it is.
I don't remember where the media entrance is. And the last time I went to an entrance, it was the visitor pass gate entrance.
Ooh.
And they let me through and everything. And then I almost got trampled by what Milos Uzan coming off the floor during warm-ups for Oklahoma. So I had to slide under, like they were bringing out like the protective.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like the tape, like that black roll of tape.
Yeah.
Not really tape, but to keep,
the velvet rope thing.
yes,
Yeah.
the rope. Yeah, I had to slide under it like Indiana Jones. Like it was a whole thing.
For future reference, it's the door closest to the volleyball building.
But
next to the baseball stadium. They share a little tiny parking lot.
I thought that's where I was going.
So at Allen Fieldhouse, I walk in, I know how to get to the media room. I know, and I've gone to games covering KU for a long time, and I knew exactly how to get up to my seat in 13A, what stairs to go up. I'd get off on the first level. I'd go to the interior staircase, go up. I'm right there. Well, they took out the interior staircase. So I go there. The first game of the year it was the exhibition game. And I get there and I think, where am I? Something is missing here. And I'm not sure what it is, but I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Well, I found out they took out a whole staircase. So then I had to completely re-navigate. Oh, I was about to have a panic attack. It was terrible.
I know where I need to get to. So like I have a general idea of where I need to get to. So when that incident happened the first time I was here this year, I did kind of do a little turnaround and think, let me find a staircase and I'll be fine. Should get to the top level of this building. I can find the media seating, no problem. Then when I wanted my halftime Buster bar, trying to find the media room was like trying to find the hidden temple.
I see. Okay, here's another example: K-State games, right? Because K-State is a different setup than Allen Fieldhouse, just the way it's laid out, obviously. And you know, the concourse is up, and if you're a fan, if you've been to Bramlage, you know this. You get in at that top level, and then you walk down.
Everything funnels down. Yes,
it's actually very easy if you come in as a fan to find everything. It's all circle and it all funnels right down. Well, the media is downstairs. You take the elevator. I guess you can walk all the way down. I've done that, but you just take the elevator down. You end up right there.
I've never been on an elevator in that building.
Have you really not?
No.
You just walk down the staircase?
No, I walk all the way around now to like the freight entrance. So yeah, I figured out now where the freight entrance is. And so I walk all the way around. I walk right by Jerome Tang's personal parking spot.
Nice.
Sick BMW, man. It's so sick. Murdered out. Oh, it's sick. Anyway, walk right past there, like where you got the TV trucks, everything. So the freight entrance at that end of Bramlage Coliseum, and that lets me come in right where they have the post game workroom, which is also the pregame eating area.
That's what I wanted to bring up.
This is very inside baseball.
It really, you get a real look inside the life of like small market radio here. Although we cover big markets. Anyway, beside the point. I've covered a number of K-State games in my career, not for several years. But there was a time like 18, 19. I was going to K-State games all the time. I was going to a KU or K-State game every week. And I've never eaten the media meal. Not once. Because I would walk over there and I would be like, oh, well, here's the room where you get the paperwork, like the team info.
Yes,
and
the media workroom. Yes, there's a fridge full of drinks and your game notes.
Grab my water, get the Wi-Fi password, whatever, all good. I never knew where the food was. And I always have just felt so much anxiety about looking around, not knowing where I'm going. So without fail, every single time I would cover a K-State game as media, I'd leave at 10:30 or whatever, starving. So I would either go stop at Cane's or I would just drive the hour and a half home hungry as hell the whole time.
I'm sure you were
and it's my own fault.
I'm sure you were crushed having to go to Raising Cane's.
Oh, yeah, horrible.
Devastated.
But, like, I'd come back to my seat because when I was doing it, it was behind
they used to be on the floor. Now they're on the tunnel end. They're next to one end of the tunnel.
It used to be on the opposite side of the floor, right where Cartier-Jara dunked it right in my face in 2019. And it was just 3 risers of it. I'd come back to my seat, 20 minutes to tip off. And I'm looking over. I'm like, oh, look, it's Kellis Robinette. Damn, he's got like a 3-course meal over there. Where is this food? Fitz is over here holding court, eating, like a whole barbecue chicken.
It's always
and I'm like,
Kellis.
wait a minute. What?
It's always Kellis. Because last time I was there, I walk by and I look into the workroom /eating area, and they've already got the camera platform set up. There's no buffet set up or anything like that. I'm like, damn, I'm an hour ahead of the game and they already cleared out the media meal. That sucks. Guess I'll have to go to Raising Cane's tonight. That's tough.
All right.
Anyway, so I continue my walk down the tunnel and I grab my game notes and I grab a Pepsi and a bottle of water. And I come out of there and Kellis Robinette's got a box of Chick-fil-A. Oh, what the hell? How's Kellis get Chick-fil-A? I want Chick-fil-A. So I went right back up the tunnel to see maybe, did I miss something? Yeah, I walked right past a table full of Chick-fil-A. Got a sandwich in a catering box and ate like a king.
See, I'm used to when I was at Marshall, it was the media room was where the meal was also where the post game was.
Yeah.
Was
K-State,
whatever.
yeah.
They have since moved everything around at Marshall, and now the media room is in a former suite because they're redoing everything. But it was like a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Your media room, your food room, your drink room, your press room.
Yeah, Allen Fieldhouse is very similar.
Yeah.
I will make sure you've got good directions so you don't get lost. I don't want you to have to go through that.
For God's sake.
I'm going to be in there like, what is going on? Hopefully I'll be able to talk to our pal Michael Swain.
Yes, I'll show you a picture of Michael Swain. Like, here's who you go find.
Your seat should be right behind his.
Yes.
So,
yeah, you might. I don't know if you'll see CJ. CJ might not show up for Oklahoma State. Sorry, Mike Boynton, but yeah, CJ goes through a bunch of games. We'll talk to CJ coming up on Thursday for the Big 12 breakdown.
We can do this, by the way, because it is a slow news day for our 5A Sports Talk headlines. It's just a bunch of like offensive coordinator coaching carousel stuff.
Yeah, not a whole lot of breaking news today. We will get to some college basketball a little bit later on this hour, though. This weekend sucked for KU and K-State.
Yeah, it did.
K-State got hammered. KU lost on the road again. Now just one win in 4 road games in the Big 12. And by the way, do you know who KU plays next on the road?
Houston. No, that's a home Saturday.
Is it home on Saturday? Oh, I thought it was on the road.
No, that's it. That's it.
All right, well, I feel a little less bad about that game. All right, well, my mistake. I thought that game was on the road. But yeah, so KU gets Okie State at home, Houston at home, then K-State on the road next week. That's a big Monday game for both those teams.
It is.
That's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a whole lot of fun coming up next Monday. All right, let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines, though. We do have a few of them before we get to college hoops talk and some final thoughts on Chiefs versus Ravens. Let's get to some of that news today from the college, or not just from the college sports world. Let's start with the polls. All right, let's do that. Let's start with the AP polls for this week. The top-ranked team from the state of Kansas in this week's AP Top 25 poll is the Kansas State women. No Aoka Lee, no problem. K-State 20-1 on the year, all the way up to number 2 in the nation, only behind the only undefeated team, men's or women's, in America, the South Carolina Gamecocks. And they got pretty close in the total vote score, too. South Carolina ended up with 875 points. K-State, 819. So they were across the board, almost second for everybody. Iowa third, who K-State has a win over this year. Stanford fourth. North Carolina State is fifth. So a lot of the usual suspects. And then K-State in the top 5. That is so cool for Jeff Mindy's group. On the men's side of the ledger this week, the Kansas Jayhawks are down to 8th in the poll. KU sliding down 1 spot this week from number 7 to number 8. I told Spencer this earlier today. We were talking about the poll. I think this KU team is good. You've heard me say what my thoughts are on the top 5 for this team. Being in the top 10 right now is a reputation ranking for KU. This is not a top 10 team in the country now.
They haven't played like one since Big 12 play began. They're fortunate to have a winning record in the league. At the same time, this league just eats itself.
Yeah.
Like Baylor's lost 3 straight games now. It's their turn to go into a skid. Like it's just happening to everybody.
I saw something on Twitter. Can't remember who tweeted it out, but they were at Jerome Tang's media availability today. And he pointed out, Tang did, that I believe all but maybe 2 or 3 teams in the Big 12 have lost back-to-back games this year, maybe.
Wow.
Or at least back-to-backs on the road.
Yeah. Something like
consecutive road losses, I think.
Yeah. I saw it, and then all of a sudden it went away because, Twitter sometimes does that.
Sure. So, yes, those are your updates for the local teams in the poll. Rest of the top 10, by the way, for the men, UConn, Purdue, North Carolina, Houston, Tennessee. Those are the same top 5 as last week. Wisconsin is up 7 spots this week, number 6. Duke is 7th, up 5 spots. KU again down to 8th. Marquette is up to 9th. And Kentucky fell to 10th this week. The rest of the Big 12 in the poll, Iowa State jumped 11 spots. They are now 12th in the nation. Oh, their fall from grace is going to be glorious to watch. Texas Tech, they're up to 15th this week. A lot of big movers this week. Baylor is down to 18. BYU fell to 22. Oklahoma is down 12 spots, number 23. And TCU, welcome back to the top 25. The Horned Frogs are 25th this week. And in terms of teams receiving votes, Texas, they received a few votes this week, and that does it for your Big 12 programs.
First headline for me on our 5A Sports Talk headlines. Did you guys know the Kansas City Royals signed a player over the weekend?
No.
I bet most people listening probably missed that. I think a lot of people were pretty preoccupied with the big football game on Sunday, and I can't blame you for that. But if you're a true Seamhead like me, it's never really an off season for talking any kind of baseball. And the Royals did. They signed a player over the weekend. Adam Frazier, former All-Star Adam Frazier.
Yeah.
Signed to a 1-year deal for $2 million with a mutual option worth $8.5 million for 2025 with a $2.5 million buyout. So it's a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. He plays well enough to make the Royals want to pay him $8.5 million in 2025. Buy your playoff tickets if that is the case. If Adam Frazier is so good that he makes you want to pay him $8.5 million, quadruple his salary next year, then something must have gone very, very right. Adam Frazier, according to Baseball References, wins above replacement, was a 1.7 WAR player last year. That would make him 1.8 WAR better than the Royals' incumbent starting second baseman, Michael Massey. Frazier didn't hit great, just a 300 on-base percentage, 240 average, career high with 13 home runs, stole 11 bases. Typically regarded as a good defender at second base. His defensive numbers really slipped last year. Also has played the outfield and some third base as well. Played for Baltimore last year, mentored some of the young infielders they've got coming up. Now he joins the Royals as a left-handed bat, which they were looking for, but it sort of feels redundant because, as I mentioned, Michael Massey's already there and he's 7 years younger. And they already signed Garrett Hampson, who's a very similar kind of player, makes a lot of contact, runs pretty fast, not going to hit for a high average, not going to get on base a bunch. He's right-handed, Hampson is, and can play a center field that Frazier really can't. But again, it just felt like a very redundant decision. But when you add this to the reporting from Ken Rosenthal last weekend that the Royals are hot and heavy on the market for a closer, a proven closer in a trade, that suggests to me that they are willing to part with Michael Massey in particular if they get the right offer, that they are dangling Massey and maybe even a guy like Nick Lofton and are trying to bring in a capital P proven capital C closer, which for a team that won 56 games last year is objectively hilarious.
We said it on Friday's show, though. No one else in this division wants to win.
Yeah,
no one else is trying.
Yeah, you may as well go for it, right? Like I don't blame him for trying. I just think that trading for a proven closer is the way to go about it. Unless that proven closer is, as was rumored in the Rosenthal piece, Devin Williams from Milwaukee, I would trade for that guy. He rules.
Yeah, I would trade for him.
I would trade for him. Like if the Royals trade for him, like there aren't but like 5 guys who I think of as proven closers in the bigs right now that would make me go, whoa, it's really nice to have this guy in the back end of the bullpen. But Devin Williams would be one of those guys. Like if the Royals could really put together a package and trade for Devin Williams, that would make me say, okay, yeah, they're serious. They mean business if they went out and got this dude, because that dude rules. That dude is untouchable. He got best changeup in baseball. He's like a modern day Trevor Hoffman. His filthy changeup coming out of the bullpen. I like him a lot. If you couldn't tell.
In the 5-team AL Central, have the Royals gotten better this offseason?
Yes.
Have the White Sox?
Emphatically. No.
Have the Guardians?
No.
Have the Twins?
No.
Have the Tigers?
Maybe.
Did they do enough to do anything that isn't embarrassing as a team, as a whole? Like, that's why it makes sense for the Royals to keep pushing for this. Even if you're not a World Series contender, go win the division. Why not?
Yeah.
If you healthy Pasquantino is going to help. If Witt keeps getting better, which we think he can be at least as good as he was in the second half of the year, you can win this division. You might win it with 82 wins, but you could win the division. Spencer, what you got for your first headline?
I guess it's kind of a slew of headlines together. The Commanders, they're interviewing Mike McDonald today.
Defensive coordinator of the Ravens.
Somehow interviewing Dan Quinn tomorrow, the Cowboys defensive coordinator, while then flying to Detroit to interview Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn in the same day as well.
Okay.
Seahawks, they're in on McDaniel, Quinn, and Johnson as well, per Tom Pelissero. And then other headline is the Bucs are interviewing. They're going to potentially poach another person from that Lions staff, Antoine Randall for their OC position. I thought Randall, or I guess Mark Brunell, former then Redskins quarterback, would come with Johnson if he is hired as to be the Commanders head coach, to be the OC. But Antoine Randall getting offensive coordinator interviews right now. So
Antoine Randall ruled. He was awesome when he played in the NFL and at Indiana too. I had no idea that Mark Brunell was a coach. No idea. That's the guy who cried because his friend smoked weed. Remember that?
Yeah.
He was like, I have seen families ruined by the marijuana. That was a little extreme by Mark Brunell back in the day. Jaguar legend as well, Mark Brunell. I would assume for both of you, best case scenario is who Matt Verderame said earlier, Mike McDonald in Seattle, Ben Johnson in Detroit. Next best option would be vice versa, and then worst case scenario is Dan Quinn. Is that how everyone feels?
Yes.
Yeah.
I emphatically with regards to that last part.
Is it?
I want nothing about Dan Quinn.
Is it like how that season ended for the Cowboys? Is it how it ended in Atlanta? The experience you had with him before?
Yes.
Not that. Like, Dan Quinn was a good defensive coordinator in Seattle. He deserved the opportunity to be a head coach. He had a team with a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. Then what happened?
It wasn't great.
So, no, I just, like, Dan Quinn's defense has its strengths, but you know what its weakness is? Doing anything against the Shanahan offense.
Yeah.
You know he had to play against 4 times a year in the NFC West. Sean McVay and one of the Shanahans. Like, no, not for me. No. We got to do something different.
And additionally, another piece of info on that, the last game of the Cowboys season, they played against the Packers. What does Matt LaFleur run? That same system, his version of that same system.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe not a great fit for the,
this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Also from the NFL coaching world today, man, that's awesome for Antoine Randall.
Yeah.
We have a texter from the 785 who says he was a darn good QB at Indiana. Yeah, he was. He was awesome. Awesome player.
My favorite thing is his Sunday Night Football intro. Antoine Randall. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Wow, core memory unlocked. Also from this weekend, the Eagles have overhauled their coordinator group. Vic Fangio, we know he was hired as defensive coordinator. They are hiring Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator. Winningest quarterback in college football history. The former offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. This year was the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. Then they fired Brandon Staley. Whole staff leaves there. Here is my question. Because we have heard for so long about how Kellen Moore has all these great ideas and the guys like him, and he's a very smart mind. He's a very smart guy, knows the quarterback position inside and out. Is he good at being an offensive coordinator? Because while there are other things at play here, the Cowboys offense immediately improved when they got rid of him, and the Chargers offense immediately got worse when they added him.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's worth asking. I don't know. I don't think he's bad. Like, I don't think this is like hiring Matt Canada or anything.
Sure.
But, no, it is an interesting hire. I also saw where the Eagles hired former Seahawks defensive coordinator Clint Hurt as their defensive line coach. They're so cooked, man.
Yeah, I was wondering what your thought on that was. I know you had very positive reactions to Clint Hurt's time in Seattle.
My thought on that is Nick Sirianni better get ready to relearn offensive coordinator, buddy, because this head coaching thing is not going to last a whole lot longer.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Kellen Moore feels like the coaching version of Trevor Lawrence at this point. We're like, yeah, there's some good. And yeah, I mean, it's solid. You'll take it. It's better than most alternatives. But like, I've been told this is the next big thing. I've been told this is greatness. I've been told Trevor Lawrence is going to be a Hall of Famer. I've been told Kellen Moore is this football genius. I'm still kind of waiting for both of those things to happen and to unfold, and we haven't really gotten that yet. We will take a timeout. That'll wrap up our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. When we come back, we'll recap a rough weekend of college hoops for KU and K-State here on 580 Sports Talk. We should play Name That Tune at some point with the bump music we've used for years. Do you know who this song is by?
Yeah, this is the Black Keys.
There you go. Well done.
I would have not known until I looked. But I've kind of said, what are these songs every few rejoins, especially today.
You need to get up on the Black Keys, man.
Black Keys are good.
The one earlier really got me. The one where you were waiting for it to drop.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Which one was that? Was that the that was the Gorillaz one? Yeah. That's what is it? Rockin' the House?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I had never heard of that one either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
That's a favorite. Yeah.
Brendan, Dan, Spencer here with you on 580 Sports Talk. We have a texter or a YouTube comment here from our pal Jayhawker regarding the NFC Championship game. It says Dan Campbell is the kind of coach who would hit on 20 in blackjack and justify it by saying he's just being aggressive. I understand why. Let me say this. I generally like that approach if you're going to be consistent with it on the football field. I would not hit on 20 playing blackjack. But I understand why people don't like it as well. I think we just need to have bigger conversations about the process of making these decisions. And I think they start to make more sense. But again, like if you're going to commit to the bit, do it all the time. Don't mismanage the end of the first half and go really conservative with it. Then when it would actually probably pay dividends to be more conservative, to then be hyper aggressive. It's the consistency of the thing that I think was one of the biggest issues for Dan Campbell. Also, the fact that they ran the ball on 3rd and goal. Or was it 2nd and goal? Doesn't matter. It was really stupid. They had to burn a timeout with a minute left. It was very, very dumb. College basketball from this weekend, though. KU lost. K-State lost. Let's start with K-State here, because Iowa State's good, and it's January still. We're still in Otzelberger's
KU was an Yes. You don't want to play TJ Otzelberger in January. KU was a dog in that game. They were an underdog, 4.5 points.
Hilton's hard to play in.
Yeah, and Iowa State made 14 3-pointers. And I guess we can start there, because I think that's like the point I want to make about that game. We just lead right into it. Iowa State made 14 3-pointers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the most they'd made a game in 3 years. Trey King had made 3 of 16 3-point attempts all season, and he makes 4 threes. Like, if part of your game plan is non-shooter, we're not going to guard you from 3, and that guy busts 4 threes in a game, then at some point you kind of got to go, what the hell? Like, there's a little bit of that. And that's what happened. Like, KU offensively, he scored 75 on Iowa State at Hilton. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like, they were really good on offense. But they made 7 3-pointers, and Iowa State made 14. And it's hard to overcome that math, right? It's hard to overcome minus 21 from behind the arc unless you are lethally efficient from 2-point range. KU is 50% on twos and even 50%, but even that won't cut it if you're minus 21 from the 3-point department. That's a tough thing to overcome.
It's like that game last year when KU played Texas on Big Monday when Jalen Wilson, I think, scored 8 points and KU hit 2 threes and 1. But they shot like 70% from 2, and Texas was terrible.
Yes, if you're going to overcome that big a disparity from 3-point arc, you better be 65, 70% from 2-point range. But like, there's a lot to like about the offensive performance. Defensively, you can look at it and say, man, outlier shooting performance, which it was.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also look at last Saturday in Morgantown and say that was an outlier shooting performance from West Virginia from behind the arc. And it was. It's their highest percentage shooting threes of the year. But at some point, when does it become an issue that it keeps happening to you?
That's true.
At what point does it become a you problem that these aberrant 3-point shooting nights keep happening to you? Especially for Kansas at this point, you got to know you're just not going to be a good 3-point shooting team this year. Like 7 is probably going to be, they were 7 of 20, I think it was.
35%.
Yeah. That's probably going to high end 3-pointers they can expect to make in a game unless Furphy goes absolutely nuts. They just don't have that kind of shooting. And especially they don't have that kind of shooting because Kevin McCullough is in a week-long shooting funk. Like he was terrible from the field each of the last 2 games. But 7's about the high end that you're going to make. So you can't let the other team make 14 3-pointers. You got to run them off the 3-point line. Like that has to be your point of emphasis. You have to run teams off of 3 because if you give up a bunch of threes, if you give up a barrage of comfortable rhythm threes, you are going to get beat.
Losing this game to Iowa State doesn't make me feel any different about this KU team. Like it's a game that if you had gone through the schedule, the 18-game schedule start of the year and said, okay, give me your wins, give me your losses. What's going to get KU to 13-5 or 14-4 or whatever it'll take to win the Big 12? I think a lot of people would have said, okay, Hilton, Iowa State's going to be decent this year. Yeah, you chalk that one up as an L. That's a tough place to win. So be it. It is what it is. That's fine. And the problem is that you also have losses to UCF and West Virginia on the road. Like, if there were any games you were going to win on the road this year, they got to be those games.
Yeah, this was the easy half of the schedule, and they're 4-3 against it, and they're lucky to be 4-3 against it.
Yeah.
And in some ways, they're unlucky to be only 4-3. I mean, if West Virginia and Iowa State shoot closer to their normal percentages, they're 6-1. You could easily say that. But again, they say once is an accident, twice is a trend. It's starting to feel like a trend for teams being a little too comfortable from behind the three-point arc against Kansas.
Yeah, no, that is definitely the truth. But go beat Oklahoma State tomorrow night, and then Houston. If you can beat Houston, I know it's at home. It's different on the road. If you can get Houston, though, that is going to go a long way for this team. K-State got housed. That's the game. And I don't know how much we learned about either of these teams. Like, I really don't think this...
Again, K-State, 14-point dog, right? Like, that this is what was kind of expected to happen, and what was expected to happen happened. You'd like to see K-State be more competitive, and that, I think, is the frustrating thing from the Kansas State perspective, is they came out and got bullied. And that's what Houston does to you.
Sure.
It's what they've done to everybody who's come to, what is it, the Fertitta Center, to play them this year. They've done this to everybody. I love Houston, man. I love that team. Like, they got a bunch of dudes who are JYDs, junkyard dogs. They all play 3 inches taller than their listed heights. They all play with the confidence of somebody who has never lost a fist fight. And they defend you hard, and they defend you with dignity. Like, they're no flopping. They're no Keyshawn Gilberts on that Cincinnati team. They defend you hard. They defend you like a man. Like, I just love watching them play. Like, that's a hell of a basketball team. And, like, their experienced guys against some of K-State's youth, like, that was very much in evidence. But K-State had to be more up to play than that. Like, burying themselves early in the game was really disappointing. They kind of did it against Iowa State, too.
We have a texture here from the 785 that says K-State looked tired from the Iowa State game, had no energy. And look, Houston should have won. They were deservingly big favorites. It was at their place, hard place. They're a really good team. Losing that game is not a big deal to me. Like, it's just not. I was assuming that was going to be a loss for K-State.
Yeah, it's not the loss that bothers you. It's how the loss happened bothers you a little bit.
It's the fact that this game, Houston got out to an 11-0 run, and you could have just called the game. It was over. I mean, K-State did not have a prayer in this game, to the point where during the broadcast on the K-State Sports Network, which you could have listened to right here on 580 WIBW, with time left in the first half, and then even more during halftime, Stan Weber was saying, hey, just try to win 4-minute segments the rest of the way. Like, show some improvement.
Yeah, it was moral victories. We were already looking for moral victories.
Which I get why Stan was saying that, but also, yikes. Like, you got 20 minutes left in this game, and it doesn't feel like you even have a chance. And look, you get beat sometimes. They're the better team. Understandable. But this is the first time in the Tang era where K-State got their butts whooped so badly. You never felt like, man, if they can just let that dog in them out a little bit, they're going to have a chance.
Because even in the USC and Miami games earlier this year, where they were down heavy in the first half, they got back to within single digits in that game. That might be more about Houston. I mean, Houston deciding, nah, man, we're going to stand on your neck for 40 minutes because that's who we are. Like, I think Houston, they're the best team in the conference to me. And I'm at this point, I'd be surprised. I think they're going to win it. I don't know if I'm willing to go out on a limb and say they're going to win it by multiple games, but it wouldn't shock me at this point. I know they've already got 2 league losses, but they feel like a team that could get acclimated a little bit. Like, if they go into Lawrence and win on Saturday, they will win it by multiple games.
Iowa State and TCU aren't bad losses either. That ain't like losing to UCF. Houston is the best team in the league right now. I'm pretty certain of that. I know CJ told us 3-4 weeks ago now
he wasn't sure.
He wasn't sure. He said, I need a few weeks. I think we've hit that point.
A texter from the 785 points out the Nebraska game is a rough one for Kansas State. That was also a shooting anomaly. Like, I'm willing to write that off. They didn't make any shot where they're like 3 for 97 from 3-point range. There's a little bit more. There was something you could actually point to and say that was an anomaly. And they get beat up on the glass in that game too. But no, like that was the reason in that game they weren't able to come back and scratch and claw it back to being competitive. They got good looks. They just did not make a shot. It's 12 points second half. They could make anything.
Coming up next, some final thoughts on championship game weekend and the matchup that looms large for Chiefs 49ers in Super Bowl 58. That's coming up right after this on 580 Sports Talk. All right, Spencer, do you know this one without looking?
No, but I like it. I like the vibe.
This is my favorite band. This is Queens of the Stone Age.
Little Sister.
See, I would never have known the band because it's in there as
QOT, yeah,
TSA.
Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah.
My favorite band of all time. Now you know something
I
new
do
about
like this song though. I've never heard it before.
Yeah. This song caused some drama once back in the day on Saturday Night Live. It was right in I guess toward the end of the Will Ferrell era, or he had made a guest appearance or something. And they had him come out with the cowbell,
Mhm.
the I Need More Cowbell sketch and all that. Well, the tapping sound you hear in that song is a wood block. It's not a cowbell. And Will Ferrell's just kind of dancing around on set while they're playing Little Sister hitting the cowbell. And apparently Josh Homme, the lead singer, just hated it.
Didn't love that. No.
He, by all accounts, is like a total tool, but he's also an incredibly good musician.
Yes, he's made some of my favorite music of all time, and also appears to be a legitimately not a good person, which is a bummer, But
kind of an ass.
Appreciate the art, not the artist. It's not to like the R. Kelly level where like I legitimately can't listen to his music anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Just kind of a scumbag.
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah. Great music though.
Kanye's kind of there for me. Can't go back and do Kanye really anymore.
Yeah, I gotta skip him on the old workout playlist these days. I can't do it. It's
yeah.
Don't love the Kanye West anymore. Chiefs versus Ravens this weekend. I've seen from a couple of different people on Twitter today. In fact, one clip that I just saw from NFL Live on ESPN today, Marcus Spears, the former defensive lineman, freaking out on TV about the Ravens game plan. And the Chiefs may have won anyway because the defense was playing so well. And I do have the belief that had the Ravens gotten back and even tied that game or gotten it close, because 7 points didn't even really feel close in this game by the end of the second half, I do think the Chiefs would have been able to go down the field and get points by the end of the game. I really do. But it just, the game plan made no sense. It made absolutely zero sense. And I don't, like, if you are a Ravens fan, you're going into the offseason thinking, what the hell happened? Why is this the way we went out?
That's, I think, a big question. Who feels worse this morning? If you're a Ravens fan, you feel like we were not ourselves. We had this opportunity that had never happened in franchise history, a home conference championship game We had a chance to take down Mahomes. We had the MVP, and then we were just not ourselves. We played completely out of character in every way for 3.5 hours. Or do you think it feels worse for Lions fans to have seen their team piddle away a 17-point lead and the best chance they've ever had at actually going to a Super Bowl?
I think the Lions, because the Ravens, there's chances in the future. For the Lions, we don't know, especially if for somehow some way both their coordinators are gone, or potentially next year, maybe Glenn goes in that next cycle next year, and they don't have an offensive coordinator, or they have to get another offensive coordinator for next year. I think it's got to be the Lions, because although they've come so far, they probably really thought this was the team that could do it for them. And but in another hand, I feel like they're just happy to have seen it.
Yeah, I think it's Detroit, because history would indicate that it's not going to happen again.
Right? Even Dan Campbell's on the podium like, hey, man, there's no guarantee we get this close again. And like, on the one hand, appreciate the honesty.
Brother,
on
going
the other hand,
through it.
Please don't say that out loud.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I want to hear from Coach Kneecap Biter immediately after that loss, because that one does. That one makes you wonder if, like, you know, is there a God? Like, I think you start to contemplate those you start to ask like big questions about the universe when your team loses one like that.
I saw someone say on Twitter last night, I've never seen God abandon a football team so quickly. And I thought, I don't think this tweet is accurate. This is under the assumption that God has ever favored the Detroit Lions, and I don't think that's true. And I know I'm veering like dangerously into sacrilege here, but I'm clearly kidding. But no, historically speaking, this is not normal for the Lions. And yeah, you have to ask how much of this success for Jared Goff, for example, is predicated on Ben Johnson being his offensive coordinator. How much has that helped his career be revitalized in Detroit? Is he going to be the same guy with a new play caller come next year? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, the brain drain starts, right? With regards to Dan Campbell's staff. Is he able to put new people on his staff that are as good as the people he stands to lose? That's an open question.
And I know this has come up before, but I still think it is a very underrated aspect of the Chiefs' success. Think of how few coaches have left the Chiefs in the last 6 years. You had Nagy leave. That was at the start, because Nagy was never the offensive coordinator for a full-time starting Mahomes, because Mahomes started the one game in 2017, the only game he played all season. And Nagy, after that, left to go coach the Bears. So EB comes in, but Bieniemy had been a position coach with the team for years at that point. Nagy comes back and Bieniemy leaves. Okay, well, you've got Nagy around now, and you still got that continuity. Spags has been around since 2019. Spags has been around now for 4 Super Bowl trips in 5 years. It is remarkable what he has been able to do. Andy Heck has been around this entire time.
Yeah.
There have been a couple of changes. The wide receiver coach, I know,
obviously new,
changed
they
out.
were ready to run him out of town about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, no kidding. So there have been some positional changes, but the front office has been the same.
Yeah.
Your coordinators have effectively been the same. Dave Tobe has been around this entire time. Special teams has been the same.
That's how you win in any sport. That is how you win. You build stability, you build a culture, and then you get to a point where the games, even the big games, it's just repetition. And you goes all the way back to what I said at the top of the show. You keep that slow heartbeat where you're used to this. This is nothing new. We've done this. We can do this in our sleep. And on the flip side of it, you have the Ravens, who it's the biggest opportunity they've ever had, and the moment got too big for them. As the Jayhawker points out in our YouTube comments, the Chiefs play with poise, the Ravens panicked. That's exactly right. That you can boil it down like that, and we saw that in the night game too. Because as much as I said Kyle Shanahan's the master of panic, that was still the 4th conference championship game that the 49ers played in the last 5 years, and it was the first one for the Lions since the George H.W. Bush administration. Like, that matters.
It does. And, if you told me next year we're going to get this game as a rematch, we're going to get another AFC championship game, Ravens versus Chiefs, I think it would be a much more exciting game. I think it would be a much more competitive game for the Ravens standpoint, because they are a good franchise. That is a good, well-run franchise. And I think their lack of poise in this game was more so about the players being new to the environment, less so than it's a crappy franchise that got lucky. Like Jacksonville getting to an AFC championship game, that's just a broken clock being right twice a day. Like, that's not an especially good franchise. The Ravens, I think, are a team that can learn from this. The Lions, though, again, on the other hand, I don't trust that they would get back in the next couple of years. It's hard for anyone to repeat, especially a team that, frankly, has been a loser for the majority of its 90-year existence. We owe you a final word, and we'll get to that coming up right after this break on 580 Sports Talk. Word time to wrap up what has been a very fun and very busy edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan, why don't you go first today?
Man, I can't believe this Chiefs team is going to the Super Bowl. I never thought it was impossible because through Mahomes, all things are possible. But you go back to the day after Christmas and where this team felt like it was heading, and you look to where they are now, it's a remarkable turnaround, and the coaching staff deserves a ton of credit. The veterans on the team deserve a ton of credit. Getting to rest that final week of the season, I think, deserves a ton of credit for the physical and mental reset. And it's remarkable that we saw last year, it felt like a retooling year for the Chiefs, and they won the Super Bowl. And this year felt like a down year for the Chiefs, and they're back in the Super Bowl. Man, just like, don't take it for granted. But the rest, I tell Chiefs fans, don't take it for granted, but I would tell the rest of everyone else, you might want to get used to it.
Spencer?
With the fall of Jeff Goodman today, which is a whole nother thing, I'm going to proclaim myself the new college basketball insider of insiders. Nothing to do with any teams here. Former Marshall player Andrew Taylor went and transferred to SEC school, Mississippi State. I was told last week by my source that he was no longer with the program.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff Goodman had tweeted, or not Jeff Goodman,
John Rothstein.
It was John Rothstein tweeted that he was unavailable to play due to personal reasons. So I quoted that and said, update to John Rothstein's post from yesterday. He has left the program per source. And I got a text from somebody the other day saying, don't know who your source is, but might not want to trust them. He has indeed not left their program. And I see a tweet earlier today from their coach this morning in his press conference. He said he is no longer with the team and won't be back this season. So I'm going to count that as I'm the new college basketball insider.
Look at that scoop. Well done. Regular old Rothstein or Borzello over here. Final word for me today is the Chiefs defense. However good you think they've been this year, they've probably been even better than that. And the players deserve most of the credit because the players got to play. But Steve Spagnuolo, what he has done with this team and getting them, oh my God, to this point, Really, really impressive. Just like the volume of that sneeze right
Didn't
there.
miss a beat. Wow.
No, just keep on ticking. We're back tomorrow from 2 to 6. We'll talk to Michael Swain. We'll talk to Jesse Newell. Get you ready more and more for Super Bowl 58. Until then, for Dan, for Spencer, I'm Brendan. Thanks for listening to this edition of 580 Sports Talk.